What's going on, guys? I am very excited to announce that Philly Sports Trips is now the official travel partner of the You Know Ball podcast. The biggest reason why I've partnered with Philly Sports Trips is really simple. I give them my money. I have a mini vacation that involves the Sixers, Eagles, and Phillies, and I don't have to lift a finger to plan anything. I can party as light as I want or as hard as I want, and Philly Sports Trips takes care of everything that I hate. The planning, the organizing, researching where to go, and I get a 5-star hotel, non-crazy flight schedules, and tailgates that have unbelievable food and booze, and most importantly, it's a douchebag-free zone. These are just some of the many reasons that I am excited to partner with Philly Sports Trips. I can't wait to go on a Sixers trip next season, and You Know Ball is absolutely going on the road to at least one Eagles game. So let me know which Eagles game you would want to go to, and I would love to do a huge You Know Ball road trip. Out of all the cities, I'm thinking New York or Chicago, but I want to know what you guys think as well. So tweet at me at TrillBroDude, DM me, comment on the YouTube, and let me know which Eagles game you guys think we should go as a group this season. Phillies and Eagles trips are booking right now. So head over to phillysportstrips.com and let them know that You Know Ball sent you for two very important reasons. Not only does it help fund the podcast, but we'll have VIP events and goodies specifically just for You Know Ball listeners. phillysportstrips.com, premium travel for every Philly sports fan, and a proud sponsor of the You Know Ball podcast. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the You Know Ball podcast. I am your host, TrillBroDude, and today I was going to do an episode about the Summer League Sixers, but honestly, something happened very important that trumps the Summer League Sixers. That is Bill Simmons and Ryne Russillo getting together to do a absolutely fire podcast called the NBA Trade Value Rankings List. So we have an expert panel here today. First, we have regular on the podcast, Matt, aka MDLMDA. Matt, what's going on there? You don't have any video up. What's up with that?
Yeah, so funny story. I was kidnapped by none other than nephew Kyle, and then also Bill's daughter's boyfriend. So I'm in it's really dark in here, which is why I don't have video. I'm in what I imagine is a basement. I was scared to use my phone, so I wasn't going to join this, but he called down from the top of the steps and said, he's going to Shake Shack. It's lit. So I think I have like maybe 20 minutes, maybe less. I don't know. As soon as things go bad, I'll let you guys know. But this is not a bit. So if you guys, can call local authorities and alert them to this.
Of course. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, look, anytime a SoundCloud rapper who's anti-union kidnaps you, it's a very scary thing. They're very dangerous people that could potentially end your life. So we wish you the best of luck. So let's move on.
Yeah, it's really dark and cold down here.
Also, we have here returning to the podcast, Mr. Sam Sheehan, aka NBA Baby Secret. What's going on, Sam?
Yeah, just a little housekeeping. That's I've been suspended from Twitter, so I'm not the one running that account. That would be illegal. I would never go against Twitter terms of service like that.
Of course.
That's an NBA baby who was recently born, came into the world with very strong posting instincts. So whoever that baby is, I appreciate them, and I just want to draw attention to them, which is why I told you to use that handle. But it's not me. Because again, I would never violate Twitter's terms of service, especially not while Elon Musk is investigating the bot crisis.
Of course. Yeah, no,
backing out of the contract. He wants to get them in a courthouse. He's playing 12D chess. He was not looking for a way to just sell all his inflated Tesla stock and cash out while his rubes continued to hold. I'm sure the SEC won't follow up on it.
I was just thinking about a hypothetical where somehow we convince Bill Simmons that NBA Baby is real, and he has you on for a 2-hour podcast. And follows up with a conversation his daughter had about Transylvania.
And NBA Baby and Bill Simmons have the same amount of object permanence. So. Which is actually a perfect kind of introduction to this list, because this is a list Actually, Russillo said at the top of the podcast that it kind of elicits these reactions whenever you do like a top 100 list or best young players in the game or NBA trade value, whatever it is, people are going to have negative opinions back. Seth Partnow, our friend at The Athletic, is like getting like insane DMs and like threats over, leaving, I don't know, Emmanuel quickly off the list or whatever. so NBA fans are obviously very normal and, have normal reactions to this. I did think it was a good point that Russillo brought that up, but what the funniest part about it was he was like, it's really hard that people do these lists and, you do this whole thing. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, I'm not sure. And then Bill's like, well, did you like it? And he's like, oh yeah, I loved it.
Yeah. He's like the most resistance to yes manning Bill, but he's still yes man's Bill.
Yeah, right.
He still remembers that it's his boss.
Yeah, no, it's like when you like trick a dog by like walking out of the room and coming back in like with a smile on your face, like because they can't like store the memory, like he just like denies Bill in a way that his dog brain like can't like store properly. So.
Yeah, he loves to shit all over Bill's ideas. It's like when you text your friend and you'll say something extremely mean, but if you leave that LOL at the end, makes up for everything, But yeah, so obviously Russillo says, they talk about the list and whatever, and then they get into the honorable mentions. And there isn't a ton from the honorable mentions that I really want to go over because the list itself was more important. I did think one thing that stuck out was why did Jonathan Kuminga get an honorable mention? Can someone tell me?
Because Bill knows his name.
Bill is just drinking the straw. So here, I have the honorable mentions right here. It was Kyle Kuzma, Jaden McDaniels, Alex Caruso, Nikola Vucevic, Gary Trent Jr., John Collins, CJ McCollum, Ben Mathurin, Wendell Carter Jr., Rob Williams, Seth Curry, Anthony Simons, Dylan Brooks, Lou Dort, De'Aaron Fox, Jonathan Kuminga, and Keegan Murray.
How many of them do you think he's ever heard of or actually watched play?
So that's the thing.
The premise Bill will defend himself with against people like us who are here just circling like vultures, ready to just tear this fucking thing apart because it is stupid, is that, contracts matter, yada, yada, yada. So it can't just be like the best NBA players. I think Bill zags a little bit too much on that in some ways. And also like doesn't adhere to that in other ways. Like the fact that Wendell Carter Jr. and Rob Williams are both on the honorable mention list, and we're going to get into some other names that Bill actually had making his list, is a little crazy to me, to be honest.
Wait, who was included that you thought was crazy?
For myself, I did a dueling 64 list, and these four names just did not make it for me. Domantas Sabonis, RJ Barrett, Josh Giddey, and Tyler Hero. Those guys were all on.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
And I think Wendell Carter and Rob Williams are better than all four of those guys. So,
did you say RJ Barrett?
Yeah.
RJ Barrett might be the one where I could hear the argument for him being on.
In the 50s.
Yeah. But I'm not a big RJ Barrett fan personally. I think that he's probably getting a little bit too much recognition and clout still from the fact that he was the third pick of the draft, and people can never forget that. But then again, like, I don't know, he's still really young. Maybe he has some more upside. Like, I understand it, but for right now, the guys that you named are around the same age. Will make less money on their upcoming contracts or the contracts that they're currently on than RJ Barrett will on his next, and are certainly better players.
Yeah. And I just think I just think RJ Barrett is kind of in that hell zone that like Zach LaVine is still kind of phasing in and out of, where it's like, how good can you really be with this guy as like your dominant scoring option?
Sure.
Like, and
the argument back to that would be that at least RJ is really good on defense. So, yeah. But Zach can shoot and RJ can't really shoot that well. Yeah. So it's kind of like they have their own unique issues.
Right. And I just think in general, Bill kind of undervalued bigs throughout this. And was like insane with how he valued like the guys who haven't played yet.
That's my big thing with this is like
I can't wait to get to Jaden Ivey.
I was gonna say, just don't even include rookies. We haven't seen them play. Like Ben Mathurin and Keegan Murray could end up being fine picks, but you literally just included the top 6 from this draft. You didn't include guys that like you think like. Why are those two on here and Jalen Durant isn't on here? Like, is there any justification for that?
Because he read the list of draft order and he just decided to stop at 6.
He literally just included the top 6, which because we know NBA teams are completely infallible and they could never get a pick wrong, possibly.
Right.
So, all right, my whole thing with the Kuminga inclusion here is like Jonathan Kuminga is more in theory than in reality to me. Like he definitely has the tools. You see the flashes, but like if we're making a list of the most important trade chips in the NBA, Jonathan Kuminga might be able to get you back something decent or might be a part of a star package, but he's not the headliner of that star package yet. And I'm still like, I still have yet to see Jonathan Kuminga do something that's genuinely useful in the NBA. Like he's not a good player. Like he might in a few years be a good player, but everything's in theory now. And I feel like we always do this, especially with Warriors guys, but also with guys who are big, athletic, and they look the part. So like, to me, what I've always said about Jonathan Kuminga is like, I see him as like a Aaron Gordon, John Collins type. Like I see him as like a play finisher who can play some defense. And that's a very useful player, but like we're talking about the best young players in the NBA, and I feel like he should not be included based on what he did his rookie year.
I feel like Bill like had to use all of his willpower not to include James Wiseman. He loved James Wiseman.
I can't believe, if we're gonna do like what's recent in people's memory and Bill's dog brain, I can't believe Moses Moody didn't make it after his like explosion.
That's actually a good point. Like, well, I also think Moses Moody is a better prospect than Jonathan Kuminga, which is not a popular opinion, but he's just much better at basketball than Jonathan Kuminga is.
Yeah, and that was kind of like, but like Kuminga was always going to be raw too. Like, so it's weird that like he like is including someone that it was clearly going to be a project, did not play in the playoffs. Like at least Moody.
And when he did, it was like he couldn't really stay on the floor past the first round.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like Moody went was instrumental further into the playoffs than Kuminga was.
Yeah, I just don't think Kuminga is that valuable. Like honestly, I'd take Gary Payton on his contract. He just signed ahead of Kuminga. Like I'm not even like trying to dig. Like even like you could even just go somewhere else. Like you just say like DeAndre Hunter, and like let's say 3 years from now, who's going to be a more useful player, DeAndre Hunter or Jonathan Kuminga? Like I'd probably bet Hunter.
Most NBA teams would rather have Seth Curry than Jonathan Kuminga, and I think he has Seth Curry off the list.
He has Seth Curry on here because he has 1 year, $8 million left, and I kind of understand that. My favorite commentary he had on Seth Curry was that he was the best non-Jimmy wingman for Embiid. Harden and Embiid had the greatest offensive rating in NBA history when they were on the court together in the regular season. I just want to point that out. And Harden, he included Harden in the Simmons and Kyrie tier. And Sam, maybe you could tell us if we're being a little bit too biased as Sixers fans because Harden is on the team now. But like Ben Simmons just sat out an entire season of basketball.
Yeah.
And Kyrie
basically did too.
Kyrie played 20 games, has now forced his way. He's about to force his way off his third team. I just want to put in context for Harden's forcing himself out of situations. A Houston team that was obviously about to rebuild. Yep. And then on top of that, the Kyrie Irving situation in Brooklyn kind of accelerated his asking out of there. So are we being biased Sixers fans when we say he shouldn't be included in this tier?
I mean, he shouldn't be included in their tier. But I think why he's getting thing is it's a compounding thing. It goes back to not wanting to play with Chris Paul, who's an asshole. But like that's like that's the start of it. You do the LeBron trade, like gun to the franchise's head before LeBron does it. Like go give me Russell Westbrook and then
He also didn't like Dwight Howard. I mean, like he has a bad history post OKC.
They're all assholes, though. It's funny. All of the stars that he's ever been paired with are just huge assholes.
Yeah.
I would say it's like, but it's also like something that's like totally different because I would say in the Nets situation, he was the one that was playing the fucking games. Like he was the one who had them in like a 1 seed last year, you know, like well, how many games did James Harden play last year? Like pretty much all of them, right? Like he
only
like
sat out that stretch before he got traded, and then he had like some load management games here and there, basically.
So what? It was like 68 or 66.
Yeah,
or
he played
like
in the 60s something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
he was really durable in terms of playing games.
And that's my thing is I think is like as long as he's happy and it seems like he's got like Daryl has his trust, you know. And I think that's another thing about the Houston situation is like once Daryl was gone, that was kind of like the writing on the wall, you know. Like,
sure.
And you have Ruben like laundering money on his
yeah. So, like, they talked about that. It's very
situation.
obvious that they're just like they're
just doing the Tom Brady thing where he's just like very clearly like getting paid.
It's not even the Tom Brady thing because the difference is that Michael Rubin is literally in the meetings, as they pointed out on the podcast. Like he's there, like you'll sign a Supermax with Fanatics, and
but
you'll just be.
It's also a good infrastructure for Harden in that he's coming onto a team where it is clearly Embiid's team. Those two get along. Like he gets along with Maxey. Like this is like a better infrastructure than he's had since, really like earlier in like Houston.
Since the Chris Paul team.
Since Chris Paul, exactly.
And also lifts up the talent around him, made Tobias Harris better, made Tyrese Maxey better, made Joel Embiid better. Like, I understand that he's not the easiest person to get along with. And look, maybe in a year from now, we're sitting here, kind of like how they said, in a year from now, we'll be sitting here saying, like, it is possible in a year from now, we're sitting here saying James Harden is forcing his way out of Philly. Like, you never know. And I understand why it's the dishonorable mentions, but I feel as though the fact that he played the games, the fact that he still lifts up the talent around him when he does play, there at least is some credibility to that. Whereas Kyrie and Ben Simmons, like, we've never seen what they've done before.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, Ben Simmons, Harden does not have anything as, like, damning as Ben Simmons, like, literally sitting out a season after, like, showing up in playoff series.
Yeah.
Like, he's been, like, not good in playoff series, but, like, he is not – I do not think he's
Matt,
been,
what's going on over there, dude?
The catalyst.
Oh, no. Matt. I think he's back. It's getting loud up there, and I think I gotta go.
All right, stay safe, Matt. Don't take your union apparel off.
Please, it's really dark and cold. Please tell local authorities, please. All right, bye. Oh, shit, I think he actually is here. Bye.
It's a damn shame. I hope he wasn't wearing his like local Ringer 23 outfit. Yeah. I mean, by the way, is there a link I should be retweeting while we're live? Or
no, we're not live actually. We're just recording.
Okay.
Yeah. We're behind the scenes.
Greetings to everyone in the future. So yeah, let's take a look at it.
The list.
So here's my suggestion. Because I think Bill was like perfect pretty much near the top. And I'll tell you my quibbles a little bit, and you can tell me, do you want to work from the back or for the front?
Yeah, let's go top 64. So we'll go down the list, the quality starters group, which is Draymond Green, OG Anunoby, DeAndre, and Jared Allen, Fred VanVleet, DeMar DeRozan, and Domantas Sabonis.
Okay. So just like right off that list, there is like one guy who very much does not fit and another guy I could make a huge argument for.
Okay, who doesn't fit?
I think it's insane to have Jared Allen this deep in the list.
Okay, all right.
He is an all-star. Now look, I love Evan Mobley. I think Evan Mobley is like kind of up next. I also think everybody got like a little carried away in the early season and just
with
like
the Kevin Garnett comps.
Yeah, wrote in like baby KG and then just immediately attributed everything good that was going on with the Cavs, like first and foremost to him, and then ancillarily to like Garland and Allen.
Sure.
Jared Allen is making like $20 million a year on average.
Yeah.
That's like not very much like
Sure.
in the NBA for a young like player. I get that like centers, you don't want to like cost control like that very much, but like that's like under a sixth of the cap. That's like less than a starter would get.
Yeah.
So like, and he's an all-star. Like, so what am I missing?
So yeah, I guess that is a good point because normally you would say, well, you don't want to pay centers. You don't want to do DeAndre Ayton's on here for that exact reason, where as a year ago, I believe DeAndre Ayton was a top 15 or 20 player in Bill's mind. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not even joking. I remember specific podcasts where he said he was like a top 50, like an all NBA guy. Right. And now he's all the way down here because teams don't want to pay him. But like Jared Allen's on a good contract. And I do think that like, and Russillo actually brought this up on the podcast, the fact that we're still in those 2016 brain numbers is like a big part of it, where people think that $20 million a year is a lot.
Right.
But like the average starter above average starters make $20 million a year. Like Buddy Hield, Harrison Barnes, like good, solid players, but they make $20 million a year. And Jared Allen is probably valued closer to 30, 35 million or whatever.
Right.
Also, I never understood why one of my favorite Billisms is when he revisits the Harden trade and he's like, I don't know why they threw in Jared Allen. I'm like, they traded for James Harden. Like you have to give up something to get James Harden.
Right. I guess, I mean, I guess what I would say is it is weird that Houston didn't seem to want him. Like, you know, like
the argument back is that
they even give up Karis LeVert. Like, what?
No, they gave up they literally gave up a first round pick from the Milwaukee Bucks.
That's insane.
Which I think I might be wrong here, but I think it became Usman Garuba. It might have been Josh Christopher, one of those two.
Jesus
Christ. But in defense of Houston, they said we don't want any good players that might make us too good. And I think that a lot of people recognize by that point, like I had a tweet from that time where I was like, wait, how did the Cavs get Jared Allen for a late first from the Milwaukee? Like Jared Allen's like one of the only players in the NBA that could capably guard Joel Embiid at the time. He can't anymore because Joel Embiid's went up a level, but like at the time he was one of the few guys who could capably like hang with Embiid. He was a great rim protector, great lob threat, great, like he's just really good. And I remember being like, what the fuck, why he's included? And it still feels like based on this list and just based on the general perception of Jared Allen, that he is being a little bit undervalued. But I do think that it kind of just goes back to everything we've talked about with centers, which is like, God, I sound like a fucking Maury brain person right now, but like, it's the market inefficiency of the NBA is just to have a really, really good center that isn't like Jokic or Embiid on like a decent contract, like Rob Williams, like Jared Allen. Like there's a handful of guys who fall into this category.
That's true. I would counter by saying they have Al Horford at 30.
Sure.
So the Celtics have like Al Horford at 30, like,
but only for one more year. And also Al is one of the rare centers who can kind of hybrid play power forward and center.
Well, yeah, and I think that's kind of what's more important here is having like floor space. Like Draymond is like by today's NBA standards, effectively a center because he like really can't shoot. Like he's like a playmaking center, you know, like that is like you want to get him in pick and roll to kind of like facilitate the offense, but like ideally you want him like not at the 3-point line. So okay, but I'll even give you that.
Speaking of Draymond, though.
Yeah.
Speaking of Draymond.
Yeah.
I know that he had his weird games in the playoffs.
Okay.
I know all that. Bill didn't even have him on the list. Russillo had to be like, you got to include Draymond. And then they put him at number 64, literally last on the list. The Warriors had the number one defense in the NBA in the regular season and in the playoffs, largely due to the fact that Draymond Green is the anchor of that team. Now, Andrew Wiggins is an important part, you know, like I think that there are pieces of that defense that matter, but like Draymond is the engine that makes that defense go. And the fact that he was almost not included on the list is crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, like, let me see. So, Bill had like John Collins on his like miss list, right? Like, like honorable mention. John Collins makes like $2 million less per year than Draymond and is under contract for like 3 more years. Draymond is only like under contract for this year, and then next year he has a player option. And again, $25 million, which sounds like a lot of money, okay? But as like a function of the cap, that's like a little bit more than a fifth of the cap.
Yeah.
Like, so like, you know, so that's like, you know, if you're building out an 8-man team, that you want like a mid-level starter there. That you want that to be on a championship squad. That's going to be your third man. That's a pretty good, like, getting the defensive player of the year, like which he would have won if he was healthy the whole year, like on that contract. I don't know. Like, I think this is what I was saying about Bill kind of like overthinking the contracts, because the other one that crazy stands out to me in this group is Fred VanVleet. Another
crazy good contract.
Another all-star making $21 million. Like,
and didn't he just extend? But if you extend while you're still on the team, you can only make 8% more a year. So, like, when the cap goes up, Fred VanVleet will make $30 million, but the cap will be like $150. So that contract is incredibly valuable to the Raptors. And so that was another guy that I was like, yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
Also, the fact that he called the group quality starters, like,
there's 2 all-stars. 3 if you
there's 4 all-stars. Yeah. there's literally, okay, so all right, there's 4 all-stars if you include from the past 2 or 3 years. You have Sabonis.
Yeah. Okay.
Jared Allen. And Sabonis is his own issue with like the floor raising versus ceiling capping and all that shit. But like you have DeMar DeRozan, who, by the way, Bill was like second team all NBA this year. And he was like, but my point here is that if you called a team and said, do you want DeMar for this guy? They wouldn't do it. And I'm like, but you, by your own standards, he's a fucking top 15 player from this past season. Like, how is that not more valuable than like guys who are ahead of him on the list? Like, well, we'll get into the next tier, but like, to me, like, I understand why guys like Sabonis and DeMar would be a little bit lower just due to the fact that they probably cap your ceiling if they're on your team. Right. But at the same time, the name of the list is quality starters, and you have guys like Draymond Green, who everyone talks about Rudy Gobert, and if you have Rudy Gobert, you have a top 5 defense. If you have Draymond Green, you have a top 5 defense. Like that's what I'm saying here is like, this should not be this should be like the sometime all-stars tier.
Right. So like when I did mine, like just for example, okay, because I totally like DeMar was the one I had, and Sabonis for sure were the ones I had the least problems with. But like also DeMar DeRozan was literally all NBA last year.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like so. You know, I get all this other stuff. Like, I had DeMar, what I felt like was crazy low, and I had him 54th. You know, for comparison, Bill had him 59th. You know, so I feel like I'm one of the lowest people on DeRozan, and that felt like low for me. And that I had him 5 spots higher. I think sometimes, as we're going to see later on in the list too, the other thing is like, good young players are definitely the most valuable like contract. Like Anthony Edwards is one of like the most valuable players in the NBA.
Sure.
Jason Tatum, you know, those guys. You have to you can't just assume because a guy was like a high draft pick or something else, like immediately project him outward, or because he like looked good his first year, that's going to be
summer league. Yeah. Literally for Keegan Murray, summer league. Like, I think Keegan Murray is going to be a good player. I think he's going to be like a Harrison Barnes type player. But like, if you're projecting off summer league, okay, we'll talk about Tyler Hero when we get there, because that's one that I did not understand at all. But all right, let's move on to the next tier, which is the upside gang. So we have basically a bunch of young players. We have Tyrese Halliburton, Tyrese Maxey, Herb Jones, Jaren Jackson Jr., RJ Barrett, Franz Wagner, and Josh Giddey. So to me, there's one insane inclusion on here. There's 2 insane inclusions. One for the right reason or for the wrong reasons. Actually, both for the wrong reasons, but for an opposite directions. So Herb Jones' inclusion on here, we'll get to that in a little bit. But Franz Wagner, literally, in my opinion, was just as good as like every rookie in this class. Like, just as good as Mobley, just as good as Scotty. Like, why is he 52nd on a list of 64 players when all of those guys that I just mentioned are in the top of this list? That's what I didn't understand at all.
I had Scotty like a little higher, not than Bill. I had him much lower than Bill, but I had him like higher in relative to like other young guys, just because like the wing aspect is so important, and like, you know, the rebounding in particular, and like the fact that he like kind of got his reps in and like didn't look like absolute dog shit. But like Franz is like right there, you know, like it's the, was it you that tweeted out the flirting versus harassment meme with like the Franz? Who did you use, Franz and who?
Oh, I've done it before with shit. I don't think I've ever done it with Franz, but I've seen it with Franz and Scotty, where it's like they basically have identical stats. Obviously, Scotty's a better defender, but also think about the context in the situation.
Right, exactly.
Like Franz is the main initiator on a team that has like 5 NBA players, and Scotty Barnes is like the third option on a really good team.
Right. Like I give Scotty like credit, because I also think like it is kind of hard to like all NBA some of that stuff, like personally I think some of that stuff's like a little.
You also don't want a nation of people. You don't want a nation of people showing up at your doorstep.
Well, I mean, we'll talk. I'm sure we'll get to the KD shit later, and I'll immediately have all the Raptors fans flip on me and want to dock me. But but I just don't think like you know, for example, here's something. I had Franz 44th. I had Paulo 36. like why? And I didn't feel good about it. Like I don't like putting Paolo out of Franz. What is the guarantee Paolo will be better than Franz? You know, like
and that you see it. There was about a year ago, I did a podcast with Nihilus Bucks, and everyone was doing the, would you rather have Cade Cunningham or LaMelo? Would you rather have Cade Cunningham or Cade Cunningham or Cade Cunningham? No, but would you rather have Cade or SGA? And I was like, well, I'm going to take the guy who I know is already like going to be an all-star. Like, I don't know, like
one who's amazing right now.
Yeah. Like, imagine if we went back to 2017, would you rather have Bradley Beal or Markelle Fultz? Like, yeah, I'll probably take Bradley Beal over Markelle Fultz because Markelle Fultz literally could break his brain and not be number 1 pick status. Like that can happen at any time. So like ranking these guys who have never played in the NBA is hard. Even though I love Paolo Banchero and I think he's the best player from this draft, it's hard for me to say like project it forward. How is he going to be in the NBA? And there's one guy that was from that group of players that I thought was way too high on this list too.
Yeah. No.
But yeah.
I mean, well, I'm assuming you're talking about Jabari, right?
Of course. Yeah. We'll get to that. But okay. So another thing about this tier, Herb Jones' inclusion here is legitimately insane. Like, I like Herb Jones a lot. I think he's a really cool, fun, young player. He's like 23 years old. He's like already like close enough to his prime that like he's probably not going to get much better. And like, yes, he's a very useful archetype of player in that kind of perimeter defense that can like, Bill said like, oh, the best defenders in the NBA plus the ability to shoot. And it's like, all right, well, we've seen 1 year of her being able to shoot. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be a good shooter moving forward. Like, history suggests that he'll probably be a decent shooter, but like, it doesn't mean that he's going to be absolutely elite. And that's like where like you're comparing him to like the Mikal Bridges, the OG Anunobis, those kind of guys that like are like actually really good defenders and actually really good shooters. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like the other thing, like this is as good a time as to talk about it. This is, it just, Bill like fucked himself
shot himself in the foot doing these insane tiers. Where
I know.
Like he felt like he had to like put all the young guys here.
Right.
Like, does he actually think that like, what is this? 9 guys in a row are all under 25, and that's like the correct like ranking for those guys? I think that's how we end up with like Fred VanVleet 60 and Jarrett Allen 61.
Right.
Like let's just like go here, okay? Because the other thing about the trade rankings thing, this is how I did it, because I think that it's an insane exercise. So you don't know what team you've been shuffled around. You're blindfolded. You're put in a front office. You don't know which front office you're in, and you're just given the trade with a blindfold on. You have no idea what your situation is, because obviously that like changes things. Like if you're OKC, you're not going to trade Josh Giddey for Fred VanVleet. You know, like it just doesn't make sense for your timeline. But I think that you like, if you just tell me right now, would you rather have Josh Giddey or Fred VanVleet, and you are X team? I'm going with like Fred VanVleet, because that's a more valuable player, like right now.
Right.
And you know, like I that's kind of how I did it. So I just think it's like kind of crazy. It's just so crazy to have like all-stars that make like literally like almost half the max. Like
right, like at the end of the list, like and maybe they won't be all-stars every year, but they're at least going to make a few all-star teams, and they've been a part of winning teams. Is my big part of this. It's like Jarrett Allen and Fred VanVleet aren't the kind of winning players, or the kind of all-star players that like aren't necessarily like winning players that are on like contenders. Like they've been on legit teams. They've contributed to winning in the regular season, in the playoffs. Like it doesn't really make any sense to me to have them that low on the list, but like the inclusion of Herb Jones here is like, he's ahead of Tyrese Maxey and Tyrese Halliburton. There isn't a single fucking GM in the NBA that would take Herb Jones over Tyrese Halliburton or Tyrese Maxey. There just isn't. They're like, honestly, I would argue those two are better players right now, and they have a much higher ceiling, and they're on, for one less year, they're on a rookie contract than Herb Jones.
Yeah. Spoiler, your fans are going to think I'm trying to score brownie points here, but I actually moved Tyrese like up substantially on my list from like where Bill had him.
So
like,
I think both of the Tyreses are very, very low. I think that both of the Tyreses should be higher, like significantly. Like I think that people underrate how good both of these guys can be, because one, I think Tyrese Halliburton Franz Wagner is the same thing. People look at the athleticism, and by the way, Franz is actually pretty athletic. He's just like a white guy, so people think he's not that athletic. But like people just look at like on the surface, like, okay, this guy's really athletic, so his ceiling must be really high, versus like Tyrese Halliburton and Tyrese Maxey are just really good basketball players that are super young and will continue to get better due to like they work hard. They're in good fits for what they need. Like Tyrese Halliburton has his own team now with the Pacers. They'll be able to build something out around him in that vision. And then Maxey is like a super scalable player for a small guard.
And that's the main that's like the main thing in that exercise where you're in the Schrodinger's GM office and you don't know like where you are. Mm-hmm. Like I ended up like this 42, like this is where I had Tyrese in between Mikal Bridges and Franz, you know,
sure.
And I had the next two below him were Marcus Smart and Fred VanVleet. And I like really struggled with like that group of guys because they're all like pretty similar. Like Marcus and Fred, I think are, you know, substantially better than Franz and Tyrese, but it's like, at what point does the money and the age like matter, and where do you draw that line if you're, because this is all the stuff, all the tiebreakers that like context would play into, you know,
right?
Like for example, if you're the Sixers, would you rather have, I think they're a fascinating example, like gun to your head, if you're a Sixers fan, would you rather have Marcus Smart or Tyrese Maxey?
Tyrese Maxey, not even a question in my mind. And this is why. Yeah. I think Marcus Smart is awesome. I think he's, if anything, he's a little bit underrated. It's funny where he would be included. Like he just won Defensive Player of the Year, and it was like earned. Like he's like one of the best defenders in the NBA. He's underrated offensively. Fantastic. He would actually be a really good fit next to James Harden. But I think that if you look at the Sixers' current personnel, unless you think James Harden can get back to all NBA James Harden, you have to have that swing piece like Tyrese Maxey that
Totally
has
agree.
the upside of becoming an all-star and becoming like a guy we already know he fits well. He kind of provides something that the Sixers lack. And it's not that Marcus Smart doesn't, because Marcus Smart and James Harden would be an insanely good backcourt complementary-wise. But the problem is that the Sixers don't have a shot unless Maxey becomes a legit star. And as good as I think that you could argue Smart has maybe a star level impact, but I don't think that he's going to be the second or third guy on a championship team with Joel Embiid as the best player and James Harden as your second best player.
Yeah, and I mean that's just like where you have to come down. Like that one was like so fascinating. Franz too, Mikal Bridges, Fred, all those guys. Like that was like a tier for me. Sure. Desmond Bane too was the next one below Fred. Like all those guys, it's just like insane trying to like value them, and I think that's how Bill needed to like build his tiers a little bit more, because like I just did them like, you know, going through the process in my head, like who would I trade for who says no, like in more teams on more situations. Like if you're if you don't know what team you're trading for, what gives you the best chance to win hypothetically, if you don't know, like everything else being,
if it's just everything almost starts from scratch kind of thing, it's a different story. But I also think that like, would you rather have Josh Giddey or LaMelo Ball? What an insane question that was asked on this podcast.
I mean, I told you I dropped. I mean, they're just insanely high on Giddey. I mean, I get it. Like, he's good, but like,
he's very good.
Like LaMelo again, almost made an All-Star team. Was he an All-Star sub? Like,
he made the All-Star team. No, he made the All-Star team. Yeah, he just like, I think he just like straight up made the All-Star team. He might have been the first substitution actually, because Jimmy Butler was out or something. But like, no, it wasn't Jimmy Butler. There was someone else. It might have been Kevin Durant, and they put LaMelo Ball in. But long story short, LaMelo Ball is an all-star level player with potential to be an all-NBA player, and we already know that. Bird in the hand, LaMelo Ball on his rookie contract, still 1 year different than. And I do think that this is where something with Trae Young that we'll get into later is like, they just hate LaMelo's style of player. Like they've always hated this player, this kind of player where it's like they're viewed as like
heliocentrism, like
heliocentric chucker, whatever it is. Whereas like Josh Giddey plays like a what's the undertones here? He plays a very
Lunchpail guy.
Real dog. He's a hard worker, smart player. But my whole thing here is like, look, Josh Giddey, I think if the shot ever comes around, will be a very, very good player, potentially an all-star player. Yeah. But at the same time, like, we already know LaMelo is that. And I think that what LaMelo is now to me is similar to what Josh Giddey's ceiling is. Right. And it's insane that question would ever come up on this podcast. Like, to me, the Tyrese Maxey for Marcus Smart one is a little bit more interesting because of team situation. Right. And like where your team is, how you can extend your window, what your window is, all that shit, what your situation is. Whereas LaMelo Ball for Josh Giddey. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. LaMelo Ball for Josh Giddey is like not even a question. We need to get into the next tier because I have something here that we'll talk about in the Ginobili's tier, which is the playoff guys. Yeah. We have Tyler Hero, Jordan Poole, Desmond Bane, Marcus Smart, Jalen Brunson, Andrew Wiggins, and Mikal Bridges. So Tyler Hero's inclusion on here is one of the most fucking insane things that I've ever seen in my entire life. Tyler Hero, I crunched some numbers here.
The bubble gave everyone brain damage. Like
what? Tyler Hero, I would argue I wouldn't even want to have Tyler Hero on my team if I'm trying to build a championship team.
What you do, especially if he's like pissed he's not a starter. Like, all right.
Yeah. Like if he wants to be Jordan, if he wants to be Jordan Clarkson or like a worse version of CJ McCollum, sure, fine. Right. But if he wants to be the guy, there's no way I'm trading for Tyler Hero. I just want to bring you the Tyler Hero playoff stats since the bubble. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, let's hear what Macklemore Jamal Crawford got up to. Yeah. In the playoffs here. I'll tell you what, as a Celtics fan who watched that Heat series, I'll tell you who I was thrilled when he was on the floor was Tyler Hero. And this is someone I should be traumatized by the Tyler Hero game in the bubble. Like I should have been terrified of him. was not. Was incredibly comfortable with Tyler Hero on the floor as a Celtics fan.
Pituitary Jack Harlow. That was your joke. But here, Tyler Hero playoff stats since the bubble.
Okay.
11.8 points per game, 2.5 assists per game,
killing it.
3.7 rebounds per game, 39% from the field, and 25% from three. So how is Tyler Hero included in the playoff guys tier?
Because Bill has like brain damage and he remembers the 37-point fucking game against the Celtics 2 years ago. That's like literally all this is. Because outside of that game, he was a little bit cheeks in that series too. Like, I don't know. I felt like I was getting that series is like a very traumatic event for me because
that's the thing. Tyler Hero only had like 3 good games in the bubble too. That's one thing that is forgotten in time, is that Tyler Hero had like 3 or 4 really good games, but the peaks of those games were insane. But you're in a setting with no fucking fans, and he's a shooter. So like, yeah, I think it's going to benefit him a little bit if he's in a no fan environment and he can just shoot with no fans in the stands. And he shot way above his head from mid-range, from 3, and it inflated his stats to the point where people really think he's like a playoff performer now. He was terrible in the Hawks series. He was not good he was good in the Sixers series until Embiid came back, and then he was like not very good and sometimes okay. And then he was bad in the Celtics. You brought it up. They faked an injury for him. They convinced.
Did. They were faking injuries left and right. Jimmy Butler's injury is like so funny. Like, you watch Rob Williams, like literally just looks like he's been shot 6 times and is like doing his best. Jimmy is just fucking spry, bouncing off guys. He's like,
he gets the most passes of anyone because he has 3 bad games in a row. You're like, yeah, but he's injured. It's like, okay, sounds good. Thank you.
He scores like 40 and has like one of the best games of his career.
And that's all anyone remembers, which is actually kind of fucking brilliant.
No, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, honestly, I think Jimmy Butler is a good player, but
he's extremely good.
Yeah, he's like one of the best. Spoiler alert: I had Jimmy very high.
He should be. He should be very high on the list.
Yeah, I had Jimmy 11th, but like I just was annoyed by that. But I think the thing. Do you remember like when Harden was first making noise about like wanting to get out, but like season before the Nets traded him, so it was like after the bubble season.
Yeah,
and there was like stories that like the Heat like weren't even entertaining putting Tyler Hero in a James Harden bag.
Yes. And Jimmy Butler was liking posts on Instagram about Harden wanting to play for the Heat, and he knew what that meant.
Yeah. It was like the most clear thing to anyone with eyeballs that like Tyler Hero is like really not that guy. Like, he is an okay player. He's an NBA player.
He's good.
Like, for sure. Like,
he's actually, I would go as far to say he's a good player. Yeah, but I would not say that he's a playoff guy, a all-star level talent.
He's not one of the 50 best players in the NBA. He is not better than Franz Wagner.
He's not better than Tyrese Maxey or Tyrese Halliburton.
Tyrese Halliburton. Who are the other guys on rookie deals?
And they're both younger than him.
Jaren Jones. How about that?
Jaren Jackson Jr., who's in the tier before him.
Yeah.
And I know that Jaren Jackson Jr. has injuries, but like Jaren Jackson Jr. also was just arguably the most impactful player in a Grizzlies-Warriors series.
Right. So I think the best comp here for Tyler Hero is like Jordan Poole. And like, you know, like where do you want to draw the line there? Because they are like pretty similar players.
I would take Poole over Hero, but yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I did. I had Jordan Poole 50th on my list, and Tyler Hero, like, and maybe, you know, that's the only one where I'm willing to like give a little, because like, how fair is it really that like one of these guys gets to play with Steph Curry and this other guy is like in absolute spacing hell with like Jimmy Butler and fucking like 9 guys who like, I don't know. I will admit that like, you know, Jordan Poole probably gets a little bit of a pass because like he was on a championship team. Like, when the chips are down, how like similar or different are these guys?
They're both heat check guys. Yeah. I think that where I would differentiate Tyler Hero from Jordan Poole is that I think that the fact that I think Tyler Hero peaking as early as he did was bad for his brain. Like, I legitimately think that like he was like, oh, I'm a superstar now. Whereas Jordan Poole was like one of the worst players in the NBA and worked himself into like one of the 75 best players in the NBA. And I think that literally has had a positive impact on where he is. And also, everyone talks about Heat culture and they talk about like their system and whatever. I'm like, Jordan Poole is perfect for that Warrior situation in a similar way to like when Klay Thompson was in his prime. Like, I don't know if Jordan Poole will be able to stay on the court in the playoffs and have as much impact as Klay Thompson, because Klay was actually a good on-ball defender when he was at his peak. He was like legitimately really good. But at the same time, like I could see Jordan Poole contributing to high-level winning more so than I could see with Tyler Hero, due to the fact that I think that like he's in a perfect situation for himself, and because I think that Tyler Hero like defensively is going to be an issue, and I think that Jordan Poole presents a lot of the same problems, but like I don't know, maybe I'm just a little bit higher on Jordan Poole than Tyler Hero. Maybe it's just because he's the flavor of the month. But all right, honestly, I thought the rest of this tier was fine. I thought Jalen Brunson might have been a little bit of a like overstatement. To be in the playoff guys tier when he wasn't able to play in the Clipper series a year ago. Like, I know he did really good for the Mavs in the playoffs this year, and then he got that contract from the Knicks. And I love Jalen Brunson. He's like a Philly guy, went to Nova and shit. But like, and I'm just like, I don't know if I would include him.
What's the annual value on his contract? What did that shake out to? 25.
It's like 25 to 30 million, something. Yeah. It's a fine contract, to be honest. Like, I don't think that's what I'm crazy.
Like, it comes down to like, do you think he can be one of these like fringe all-star guys? Like we were bringing up, like, you know, Fred VanVleet and Jared Allen, where if they like have a good season they're in, or if someone gets hurt they're in, and then like, you know, the next year they might be out because someone else has a good season. I'm a little more skeptical just because like he's smaller and like, I don't know. I really think Luka is the balls. Like, I really like.
No, for sure.
I'm really interested to see like what he's like without Luka. I mean,
to be fair, he did. I thought he won them a playoff game without Luka in that Jazz series. But the Jazz were like, they were like the 1926ers. Like they were the 18-19 Celtics. They were like, just get the fucking season over with. We're done. We're blowing it up. Like, there's context to everything here, and like. Look, I love Jalen Brunson. I hope he does well, but like, I think it's a bit of a reach to call him a playoff guy already. But the other guys, I think, all have at least, like, Wiggins was the second best player on a championship team. Desmond Bane played well in the playoffs, and also is just like, I think he probably should have been included in the upside tier if we're talking about like normal like brain thinking. And then like also like my other thing was like, why is Mikal Bridges higher than OG Anunoby, I guess is my question. Who I like, is he that much better than OG Anunoby? I think they're like kind of the same player, and OG makes less money. And he's younger than Mikal Bridges.
I would say OG has like some injury stuff, right?
Sure.
Like that's like I would say that's the difference. I like kind of get one. Isn't OG's contract like a little bit shorter too? Like he's under contract.
Yeah, I think he has like 2 more years or something.
Yeah,
like he might have a player option on the last year.
Exactly. So he's got 2 more years. He's got this year, next year, and then a player option 3 years out. Which I guess that's.
I would love to get rid of every Raptors player on this list.
And we'll eliminate them.
Kick them out of the league.
Right. They're just out of here. So like I think I don't know. This also could be me just being like a little annoyed with like the OG stuff because like people are like he's like an all-star, like he's an upcoming, like with the
Zach Lowe saying it would be a risk on his podcast to trade OG Anunoby for like, Kevin Durant.
Yeah, it's like no, there's not. Spoiler alert. Let me get you there. He is deep enough and is who he is enough at this point. He will not be an all-star.
No,
like, I'm sorry. He will be. He is like the rich man's Otto Porter. And that's fine, you know. Like
he's a 3-time most improved player candidate,
right? Like he's
preseason favorite.
Yeah. So like I don't know. I think I kind of agreed with it, but just because like Bridges' contract like goes longer.
They're about the same to me. I think I would include them in the same tier, but yeah,
$3 million. I think Mikal's longer too, right? Isn't OG like?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And I don't know. I think Mikhail's like a little bit quicker too. Like I think of OG as being like a little bit more of like a forward guarder versus like Mikhail being like a true wing like defender. You know what I'm saying? Like so.
Yeah.
I value that like a little bit more. I did have him like a little bit higher, but like I also that's like pretty small potatoes to me. I think that's the beholder stuff. Like like
I'm just thinking like he's OG's 3 tiers below him, and I'm like, okay, that doesn't make
that
sense.
is a little
yeah. All right, but also like we saw Mikal Bridges in a finals, which once again will break Bill's brain, where it's like he was in the final, so he has to be even higher than like he has to be one of the core pieces of a Kevin Durant trade, right?
Right. I mean, I just admitted that like Jordan, I value Jordan Poole way more than Tyler Hero, and I really don't like in any given season those guys could be the same player, you know.
Sure.
Like,
I mean, a lot of the role players that are included on here are just like guys who were good recently, like
exactly.
Like Russillo said, like Marcus Smart wouldn't have been on this list last year because they don't understand the importance of Marcus Smart to the Celtics, and like it's very obvious what his importance is to the Celtics, and I kind of would argue the same for OG Anunoby with the Raptors.
The Russillo and Bill like trying to like backtrack on like Marcus Smart to like it's like
he's the same player.
Drives me fucking insane. Like it's like, he's like so different now. He's literally the fucking same. The difference is that he doesn't have Dennis Schroeder or fucking Kemba in front of him. Like that's literally all that changed. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly, dude. What the fuck?
But anyway.
So let's move on to the next tier, the Westbrooks, which is the regular season guys. Bill loves to take digs at Westbrook. It's hilarious. So we have 43 Bradley Beal, 42 Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 41 Jaden Ivey, who has not played a single regular season game in the NBA, and 40 DeJounte Murray.
This is truly insane. Okay, like first off, I'm gonna say this right off the cut because I was looking at this is another like harassment versus flirting, the beholder thing. Okay, where like are Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and DeJounte Murray like very different players? Probably not. Like Shai is a more efficient player, like who's
before like, this year. Shai was a more efficient player.
Yeah. And overall too, I think DeJounte's at about career 53 true shooting percentage.
Yeah. He's not the most efficient guy.
Or no, sorry, 51. And Shai is at career 57. But Shai had like a more down year last year.
He had a down year, but also OKC context.
OKC is trying to ruin his career in the name. But like I just think it's insane to have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander like this low on the list. He's a 23-year-old, like again in the same mold, and I think with like more upside. Like he's a fringe all-star guy who I could pretty easily see like moving into that like next class of guys. Like he's I think he could be like
I think he could be like a third team all NBA guy.
Yeah. Like I just think it's insane. Like speaking of guys in bad situations, we were just talking about Franz, right? Like he is literally playing with G Leaguers like every fucking night that he's out there and was winning, and they have to fake injuries for him.
Back-to-back seasons.
Yes. Like they're ruining if he's like stays on that dog shit team again, I'm going to go fucking insane. Like they have to trade him. But like, again, to like return to how different things are, with different things. I mean, so he's someone who actually makes like real max money. Like he's making the $30 million.
He's entering the max money right now.
Right. Exactly. So like that would be that's probably why Bill has him low. But like, here's another guy who's like in there, like Brandon Ingram is Jamal Murray, making similar money. Andrew Wiggins, who I believe is like how many spots below him?
Not
like,
that many more. Not that many. Yeah, it's literally 4 spots. Yep.
I just think like, I don't know. I mean, and again, like DeJounte Murray is like a pretty similar player who is an actual all-star and is like not that much higher on him. I just thought the Shai thing was like particularly egregious given how young he is, that he's under contract.
bad situation.
Like he's exactly.
And also playoff guys versus regular season guys. He's played like 10 career playoff games. Like, he was a very different player. It's like when people will bring up a guy early in his career, like people love to do this with Joel Embiid. And I'm like, Joel Embiid was a very different player than he was in his first 2 years in the playoffs. Like, you can't compare what he was 4 or 5 years ago to what he is now. Like, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a much better player now, and he will continue to get better probably.
He was a guy like I really wanted the like Celtics to like target with like a, like a Rudy Gobert package where it's like before they turn their season around. But I was like, let just Al Horford's contract and like
trade him back to the Thunder.
Yeah. Every fucking pick. Yeah, exactly. Very rude. But yeah, I guess they probably couldn't have done that. But like you could have like gotten there with like, I think it was like Schroeder and like you had like Wancho's fucking contract at the time. But neither here nor there. But I just think like Shai is like way too low. I had him 25th on my list. I had him ahead of Donovan Mitchell on my list.
I also wanted to say here, like, I would not have him ahead of Donovan Mitchell, but I would have him significantly higher than 42 on my list. Bradley Beal, he's going to make the most money of any player in NBA history except for Jokic.
Yeah.
Like, that seems significant. Like, if you're trading for Bradley Beal, you have to give up just a ton to match the salary. Like, that's the biggest thing for me is, like, if we're talking pure trades, like, you have to give up a lot. And, like, I understand he's a very good player. He's probably a top 30 player. But, like, the fact that it takes so much just to get him in the first place, he gets to pick where he wants to go. So, like, I guess he'll have to give up a little bit less because he has the no trade clause. But, like, I'm almost like Bradley Beal should be lower, which is crazy to me because he's 43. But like, I would not want to be stuck with that contract. I think that it has significant downside. I'll say that much.
Right. I will say that I think I agree with what you said. I did end up moving him up a little bit, but I think
he's very good. He's a very good player.
I did end up moving him up a little bit, but like, I think all of your points are like pretty salient. I also think he's going to have a little bit of a bounce back here, but I think what you just said about Brad Beal can be like tripled for when we get to the next tier, Damian Lillard. Like,
absolutely. Yeah.
Like, I think that's the worst example because he's making, I think, even more money for longer and is older.
He's going to make $60 million in a few years. Yeah. I mean, which once again, when the cap goes up, it won't be as much, but $60 million is still $60 million. Like, that's like, going to be at least almost a third of your salary cap, even if the cap goes up a bunch. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot of fucking money. And so that's Matt is back. Matt, are you there? Are you there? He's been freed. Matt has been freed. Wow. Matt has escaped. How you doing, bud?
He got back and he said it's chill and don't worry about it. And then he let me go.
I hear that.
Shut up.
That's how, you know what? I probably should have told you this, but that's how a lot of like cousin Kyle's like kidnappings go. I know a lot of girls who have been kidnapped by him, and they say that that's usually how it goes. So.
He just like he went to Shake Shack for 40 minutes. He came back. He said it's chill. He told me not to worry about it.
That's awesome.
Nice, dude. Congratulations.
I'm glad you're
glad to see that you're safe and home, dude. Yeah.
No, it's honestly chill. I'm not worried about it.
So we're about to transition into the sorry he's worth more to us than to you tier, which is Chris Paul, Damian Lillard, Chris Middleton, Jamal Murray, LeBron James, and Donovan Mitchell. Okay.
They spent like 35 seconds talking about LeBron James at 35.
That is insane. I know LeBron is 37. Yeah. I know he's on his contract.
If LeBron James went on the trade market right now, every single team would be twerking.
Okay, so hold on. He literally justifies because Rudy Gobert's in the next tier. He had Rudy ahead of him because he knows he went for a lot in a trade. What do you think LeBron would go for in a trade? And I understand he has 1 year left.
Yeah.
But
it would be the biggest trade haul.
He would pick where he wants to go. Like that is the LeBrons, the KDs, like they're gonna get massive trade hauls back, and they get to pick where they want to go.
So when I did this, I ended up with LeBron at 21, and I had
way
and
higher.
I felt sick about it. No, but I was like, do I really want to do this? Like I had him in between Brandon Ingram and Cat. Like I had Cat a little higher. I was like, I guess I'd like.
I would never have Karl Anthony. I think I would have LeBron James over Karl Anthony Towns, no matter what the situation.
When you have a chance to have Cade Cunningham 20 spots ahead of LeBron, you simply take it and don't think.
Okay, here are the guys that were included ahead of LeBron James: Pascal Siakam, Jabari Smith.
That's awesome. That's
so Drew Holiday, Jalen Green, Rudy Gobert, and Karl Anthony Towns.
Awesome.
That rocks.
The only rationale for the Gobert thing is that he went for a huge package, but it was just because of Minnesota. Like, have you heard anything of any other team like coming close? Like, I haven't heard anything about other teams looking for Gobert.
No, that was an isolated incident of this team was desperate to upgrade the roster.
Trades. It ruined the Kevin Durant trade.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people are saying, well, KD's not going to get back as big of a haul as Rudy Gobert. I'm like, first off, he will. Yeah. Second off,
100%.
Whatever your perception of what Rudy Gobert got back, like there were no really needle-moving players included in that trade. A lot of solid players, Jared Vanderbilt, Patrick Beverly, Malik Beasley. Yeah, they'll flip those players and get picks. But ultimately, those are not needle-moving players. Like, Mikal Bridges is a needle-moving player if you already have your first few guys set in place. DeAndre Ayton is a needle-moving player if you already have a guy. Like, I do think that it is a little bit ridiculous that people are saying that and they would also get every single pick that the Suns could trade. So, like, that's where it's different because, like, it wasn't every pick for Rudy. Like, the KD LeBrons are going to get back a lot more value than fucking Rudy Gobert. Like, I don't care how much Rudy Gobert went for. It's just a ridiculous thing. But, okay, so speaking of Damian Lillard, did you guys like Bill's little tangent on Damian Lillard on the pod when he talked about his press conference? Did you remember that?
Somebody else your memory did that and read another podcast. I think it was Dunked On. Read his like fucking weird little
how cool he was dedicated to the business. Yeah. He was saying, okay, I just want to put this in context. He was saying how great Dame was because he was talking about the importance of the name on the front of the jersey and not the back of the jersey,
like which the most manager thing I've ever heard about.
Yeah, exactly.
Middle management, like we are. By the way, all right. So there are two layers to this that I thought were really funny. One is that Jody Allen won't even return Damian Lillard's phone calls, the owner of the Portland Trailblazers. Like, is literally just ghosting him, and he's like, yes, I want to stay here anyway. That was a hilarious part about him, like, caring about the front of the jersey instead of the back of the jersey. The second thing that was the funniest thing to me was the fact that Bill Simmons was the one saying this and how proud he was of Damian Lillard and how much he respected it. You're doing a trade ranking list. You're literally, and your entire brand was built on trades. It would literally be like if I said that. The slop guy came out and was like, oh, you have to be dedicated to your team. And
Bill Simmons is like a few DNA strands away from being Buster Blues.
He really is. I think, well, I'll put this in context for you about why that makes sense. Because the thing is that Bill has parked his car, and Russillo too is along for the ride on this, on, I don't know, do we really want to give the players all this control?
Sure.
I don't know. Like, and Dame is like the counter argument to that, like where he is, being management's, he's doing what management asks, not causing a fuss. He's there for the stuff, and it's a particularly potent like juxtaposition right now with how Brooklyn's stuff is shaping up with like, KD and Kyrie basically running that franchise and like, them butting heads with another rich guy in Josiah and like
the Alibaba guy.
Yeah, the Alibaba guy, and
he owns Alibaba. I don't know if you guys know this, but
yeah, I just think I don't know,
which is a company that I had to Google and learn what it was.
Remember the clip I sent you the other day? It was like, and he's just a fierce businessman. I mean, he's the Alibaba guy.
He's been talking about how KD went to the Nets because he wants to be involved with Alibaba for like 3 years. And I'm like, does KD even know what Alibaba is? Sorry, my cat knocked this over.
Yeah. No.
Thank you, Dewey.
I will say this, you know, like, I mean, you do kind of have to have stones to be like a thieving capitalist, like in China, because you can like literally get killed for it. So like, I mean, like
Kevin Durant, he's like, you're nothing to me, Kevin Durant.
Yeah,
I will step to Kyrie Irving. I went toe to toe with G.
Yeah, this is the man who did land like this is like the country that did land reforms, and this man is like not scared. So like, in that way, he's like built of sterner stuff than like you know American billionaires. Like Cuban like throws a hissy fit whenever someone says that like, but whenever anyone points out that he's like just has a sexual harassment club, like
yeah, exactly. He's like, how dare you? Yeah. He's like, I've not stood toe to toe with the Chinese government in the same respect. Although I will say, Cuban might get murked for his new pharmaceutical company. I'll say that much. He's selling it at cost. He's selling pharmaceuticals at cost. I'm like, you might be on a list somewhere, bud.
Mm-hmm. The Sacklers are gonna have you bagged up, brother. You gotta watch your back.
But going back to like Bill, like being obsessed with like the name on the front of the jersey, like it really like ties into his podcast with Kevin Wild, who I don't know who that is, but he's always comes on Bill's podcast.
Who is this guy? Why did he just start coming on?
It's got to be like a cousin. Like
no, it's an old Grantland guy.
Is it a Grantland guy?
I think he was like an ESPN Grantland guy.
But, like he does these like half-baked ideas, and one of like that's his like segment he does when he comes on Simmons Pod. And the other day I sent you the clip, and I think you saw it as well, Sam, where like it's like the last dance, and it's like we'll really stick it to
ownership.
Sticking for one more year, you'll really stick it to Josiah if you guys win a championship.
Yeah.
Oh, I made him billions.
Yeah, if you want to show your if you want to really ruin your manager's day, buckle down, work really hard, and like do record profits. That'll show him. Mark, that's like the first page of the Communist Manifesto. Like, do a really good job sticking it to Madrid by winning.
Work hard, own your boss, literally.
Yeah, don't cause a fuss. Put your head down and just get all the work done quick and cheaply.
He's like staring. He's like staring like directly at Michael Bauman as he's saying this, and like rubbing a knife against his cheek,
licking the blade. God,
he's like, oh God, don't we hate unions?
Oh God, yeah, fuck. Shut up, Bowman, by the way.
Anyways, yeah, Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard's a simp. Moving on.
Yeah. Bill hates unions so much that he has the most divorced guy ever on his podcast.
His like little sidekick is like a man who will literally never be in a union of any kind, marital, financial.
His top two, it's his top two lieutenants are Russillo, the ultimate like divorce guy, energy guy, and then Kevin O'Connor, who like has an Elon Musk shirt on at all times.
God.
Oh, we love him. We love him, folks.
KOC really is like dark, like the light version of Dean on Draft. Like they really are like it's the meme of like the happy castle and the dark castle, but it's like the same guy.
The only difference is like the only difference is like KOC has an article in the drafts about how he has not solved dating.
Yeah, exactly. He keeps like telling Vernon like yeah, I went on a date the other night. It went really bad.
He's like, damn, Kev.
Yeah.
You're damn, Kevin.
He does.
King Glizzard, not Lizard. That's not a real name. I mean, that's why she laughed, Kevin. Good grief.
Did you guys hear their "All Cops Are Bastard"?
It was like a
segment the other day.
Yeah, about
they did like a 10-minute. They did like a 10-minute segment on speed traps and like getting speeding tickets. Kevin O'Connor talked about a time that a cop pulled out a gun when he pulled him over, and I was like, I was like, I didn't even realize that these guys were this cool.
The best thing he did during that segment is that the voice he did for the cop like vaguely resembled Vernon's voice. He was like, yeah, so I told the cop like, well, I had to honk because they weren't driving. He's like, yeah, and the cop goes like, yeah, well, you shouldn't have honked.
All right, so next here is too young, too cheap, too good. Please stop calling us. 33 LaMelo Ball, who we've decided is better than Josh Giddey. Well, I don't know if you missed that part, Matt, but we've decided that LaMelo Ball is better than Josh Giddey.
Seems reasonable.
32 Jabari Smith, 31 Jalen Green, 30 Darius Garland, 29 Paolo Banchero, Chet Holmgren, and 28 Paolo Banchero.
Okay, I just want to say one thing about this section. He like makes a really hard push for Chet Holmgren to be ahead of Paolo. Russillo spends 30 seconds explaining why that should not be the case, and Bill's like, okay, yeah, no, I'm going to flip them.
It's like, good point. I immediately regret this decision.
Yeah, no, I didn't think about this at all.
The thing with this, I mean, we talked about this earlier, how this is just so fucking stupid to try and like put guys who like have not played an NBA game.
Right.
Like on this, like that's why the draft is like kind of a fucking crapshoot every year, is because we don't fucking know. Like we have like a little bit of summer league data, like, you know, like Chet. I feel like, I guess, a little more comfy about Chet because it looks like he's going to be able to shot block. You know, like
I feel like,
but also Paulo's fucking dominated in the.
I feel like Bill wrote that section after the one Utah Summer League game. And I don't think he like,
and Chet looked amazing.
And then he just had to like fight for Chet.
Right. But like also like, first off, a guy like Paolo is gonna dominate at Summer League. He's basically a 6'10" guard who can fucking dribble, kind of shoot and pass.
It was like why Ben Simmons was good that one year.
Exactly. Like, even if I think that Paolo is the better prospect than Chet, I'm not taking anything from Summer League to say that he's definitively going to be a better NBA player than Chet. Like, you just can't take anything from it.
Honestly, Jabari Smith could still be, probably not, but like,
he'll be fine. He'll be fine.
I think he played well today.
Yeah. Here's the thing with Jabari, and this has been my whole thing with Jabari. Everyone loves to blame Jabari's guards for when he does bad, but the reason why that is the case is because Jabari cannot dribble.
Yeah, he can't do anything.
He's literally like, he's just like a
prove that. You can make the finals with like
that's the market inefficiency. Yeah, getting guys who can't
dragging in the best way.
Market inefficiency. Nobody realized Jaylen Brown can't dribble for like what, he's been in the league 7 years now.
The Warriors finally figured it out after 3 games. But no, like, kind of just going back to the Jabari thing, like, I think it's fine to be high on Jabari as a prospect, but this is a perfect reason of why, one, we shouldn't take too much from Summer League, because I do think that if Jalen Green becomes as good, and like, I don't even know, like, based on Jalen Green's rookie year and like what he showed towards the end, like, sure, maybe you can project that out, but like, based on his overall production from his rookie year, he's not this good. Like, we're only putting him this high because he went 3rd in the draft. Like, I think he's going to be really good, and I think that he could arguably be on this list soon. But like, if we're just basing it on their rookie year, I would not include him this high. Like, I know that like maybe this is where like the perception versus reality comes in a little bit more. The perception of Jalen Green around the league versus the reality of Jalen Green. But kind of going back to my Jabari point is like, Jabari's going to be really good if Jalen becomes the creator that we think Jalen can become.
Yeah,
but until then, he's going to be a spot-up shooter who's a really good defender.
He's just more of like a Mikal Bridges.
Yeah.
He's
like a jumbo Mikal Bridges, but honestly, like, not as good with the ball, which is like not great.
Better on ball skills.
Yeah.
But like even if he's like a supercharged Mikal Bridges, like that's still maybe like a top 30 player.
Sub all-star. Yeah, it's like a borderline all-star type. Yeah,
which is fine, but like Paolo and Chet both could become like
superstars. That's the idea. It's like, if you're projecting forward, like Jaden Ivey being on the 2 tiers below doesn't make any sense to me, because if you're just projecting forward, Jaden Ivey has more superstar like equity. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that. But like just in theory, like I would argue even like Mathurin has more superstar upside than Jabari Smith. Like I'm not saying that they're going to become that, but
yeah. I mean, well, and this is the thing though, is like not that many of these guys in the draft like end up being like superstars. It's like
Right.
1 to 2 out of like the 4 guys we all talk about all draft cycle ends up making like being fine, and then like there's like usually one guy at the end of the first round, like there, or like maybe one lottery guy, like the New Zealand guy or something like might pop. Like I don't know. It seems insane to me. Like it's pointless, almost pointless to like the trade value column to like include these guys. It's my like.
I agree. Yeah. Until we see them, as Russillo kept bringing up, until we see them, I just wouldn't even include them. Like that's kind of my thing. It's like you never know when you can have a Markelle Fultz situation where a guy looks like the best player in the draft and then his brain breaks. Like that just happens.
And also,
sometimes.
if they had released this like in the same exact time in 2017, they would have had Markelle Fultz in the top 15 30. Because he was amazing. The first
he was one of the best prospects. Yeah, exactly.
But he like was so good in summer league for that opening stretch. Like the shot still looked fairly normal, not amazing, but like he didn't break until that injury happened.
Also, I just want to say the last thing that I will say here is that Darius Garland being 30 and Evan Mobley being top 10 makes no fucking sense to me. Like I like Evan Mobley a lot, and if you're projecting forward, but like it's what Sam talked about earlier. Like Darius Garland is already an all-star with all NBA potential. Like
it's because he was it's because he was a Mobley guy in the draft. Like Bill gets like just like most people gets like married to his takes, and he just he decided he was going to be a Mobley over Cade guy. I think just like by rolling, like literally like flipping a coin. And that's why he's so. And I love Mobley. Mobley's like. Really,
I think he's awesome. Yeah, but like
I would have Sam in the same tier with him.
Sam said earlier, like we got a little bit carried away with the baby KG stuff earlier in the year, and then it's kind of stuck with us. But like, I still think he's going to be really good. But
like, great.
Like, but we already know that Garland is closer to that than Mobley is.
Yeah, I still had them pretty like far apart because I do get like the idea, and I do think that like Mobley is like he's an incredible defender and everything, but it's like at the same time it's like who did he have Mobley ahead of? Like
a lot of really good fucking players.
He had Mobley ahead of Durant.
Mobley ahead of Durant. Hold on, Mobley ahead of Durant, Jimmy Butler. Fucking like every guy who was like,
look. I think Anthony Davis is like dogging it. Like that's kind of crazy.
Like that's insane.
The fact that he's Anthony Davis, I don't even like Anthony Davis. But the fact that he's ahead of Anthony, I've seen Anthony Davis can be like at his best, can be like an MVP level player. Like at his best.
He was already the second best player on the title team and a defensive 1 and an offensive 2. So
we just get so carried away so often with like the rookies and projecting them out. Like I'm trying to think of like when this didn't happen. Like Luka was like the only time that like a guy was like meaningfully good like his rookie year, and it like meant something, and you could like tell.
Yeah, it was.
Well, like Tatum by the end of his rookie year was like by the playoffs.
Yeah, but he was also like
he wasn't like a 1A type, but he was a really good player.
Well, he also shot freakishly well that year. He was like 44%.
Yeah, no, it was insane. Like,
but with Luka in terms of like heliocentrism, like there hasn't been a guy with like that you could project so easily since LeBron, literally.
Yeah. No, like Luka's like the only thing. I think we just get like carried away when these guys like win Rookie of the Year, and it's like Scotty Barnes looks great. Like I still had these guys. I get the idea. It's like the contract. It's the team.
They should be high. Yeah.
You have team control. You've got 9 years. Like I get it. I just think Bill is like gets way too fucking carried away. Like with some of that. That said, I still do have Scotty Barnes and Evan Mobley pretty high, but like
they should be high base, but also Franz Wagner shouldn't be that far behind him. Was my whole argument.
Not at all.
Right.
I'm surprised Bill doesn't like Franz Wagner. I feel like that would be a name he would really like to say.
Yeah. I feel like he does, but he didn't include him super high. Like also like a guy who's really good. Like I mean, he loves Chet and he loves Giddey. Like why don't you love Franz? Like doesn't make any sense.
Maybe this is like the context I'm missing, because like I just decided in my own head that the way you do the trade value column is you just pretend you've been like kidnapped and put in, Office X, because situation is just like so specific to this. But like I feel like if you polled teams, how many of them would rather have Evan Mobley and how many would rather have Kevin Durant? I feel like
no one would say
Kevin Durant. Like I feel like
they talked about it. They said, "Would you rather have Evan Mobley or Kevin Durant?" And he's like, "Well, what version of KD am I getting?" And it's like
Kevin Durant.
You're getting You're getting literally one of the 15 greatest basketball players of all time. Mm-hmm. And he's still like a year ago. You guys were both saying on this podcast he's the best player in the league.
Yeah, because he was before that injury. Is it too?
I don't think he was, but I think that he was one of the 4 best.
Kevin, let me know when I can run a clear out here. Maybe we do this when we get to KD, but I need to go. I need to go after Toronto fans. Let's
go ham on that when we get there. All right, let's just run through this. All right, if you tell Woj, I'll deny it to death, but I'm listening to you. Zach LaVine, Pascal Siakam, Rudy Gobert, Karl Anthony Towns, Kawhi Leonard, Zion Williamson. Okay, so this tier
is insane.
All right, so this tier, okay, it is insane, but also I understand what he was going for here. He was going for the flawed star or the injury-ridden guy, and then he just threw Rudy Gobert in there for some reason.
That's what this is what Jaden Ivey. He just threw Jaden Ivey in the regular season guy.
Right.
No, he went so weird. He went insane here though, because that's the thing, is he like switched to like, category guys and just bunched these guys up. These guys are all fucking over the place. Like, I heard Bill's defense of having Kawhi 23rd, and I get it. He's injured a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Zach LaVine, he's like 3 spots ahead of Zach LaVine and Pascal Siakam.
No sense.
I'm sorry. Like Zach,
the entire NBA wouldn't like light on fire if Zach LaVine became available, but it would if Kawhi became available.
Exactly. Like if you call it, like I get that he does have Kawhi higher, but like, do you have any idea how fast the Bulls say yes if it's Zach LaVine
immediately?
Kawhi?
Also, they literally said on here, Bill is saying that he said on the podcast that the Raptors might not trade Pascal Siakam for Kawhi Leonard.
False.
I feel like they would have to have for the guy that won them an NBA championship
like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Is Pascal even younger than I don't even think he's younger than Kawhi.
They're around the same age.
Yeah. No, because Kawhi's 30 and I think Pascal's
Siakam's 27.
28. Yeah,
he's almost the same age as Embiid.
Yeah.
They're
like similar age.
Do we want the 3rd best player from that championship team, or do we want the 1A best player?
Also, the 1A who in the last playoffs, by the way, was like, until he got hurt, once again one of the top 5 players in the NBA.
So that's my thing. Like, do we want the All NBA guy who, when he like really fucking kills it and he has an amazing season and a bunch of other wings get injured and miss game play threshold, is 3rd team All NBA? Or do you want a guy who half the time when he plays is 1st team All NBA?
It's literally one of the undeniable 30, 40 best basketball players of all time. Like
Pascal's peak is 3rd team All NBA. Like that will be his peak.
My whole thing with Pascal, to me, this would be the complete parallel to the DeMar DeRozan trade.
Yeah.
Pascal Siakam is a 3rd team All NBA guy. When he's your number 1 guy, your ceiling is significantly lower when you have him. If you can trade him for a real superstar or a legit star, you should absolutely do it.
You're stepping on my toes here a little bit with my Toronto segment.
Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize.
I'm gonna believe me. Pascal is gonna come up, and the idea of who needs to be acting with urgency here in a KD trade.
Okay, so Russillo also brought up on this point that he's just not a Kawhi guy. He's just not a Kawhi guy. You know, he comes here, he doesn't he doesn't tell us about his injuries, and I'm like, this is why you don't run an NBA team. He's Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to I don't know. I feel like the knee-jerk instinct with some of this stuff is to like call it like racist when like old guys are like just being old guys.
It's
like,
also
these guys are just like manager shitheads, and they like just get mad that a guy is like pushing his bosses around. Like, sorry,
right. That's what it is. Yeah.
Well, that's they don't like. I mean, they don't like Kyrie. Bill doesn't like Kyrie Irving because he like ruined the Celtics. But like, they don't like James Harden. They don't like Kawhi, and they don't like those guys because they ruffle feathers with management. And then like,
the thing with Kawhi is he has literally been the best player on like 2 different championship teams.
Also, pretty sure is that Yeah, and he liked Toronto, but one of the issues with San Antonio is I don't think he trusted their doctors. There was some weird connect with doctors, and he's a very closed off guy. Like he has like a very select few people he trusts, it seems like, and so like that was obviously going to be a huge thing. It's not like he's like going around like creating issues like in the front office.
Well, and like well, it's like what you're mad at him for like load managing, like he doesn't want to play regular season games. Like I'm sorry, they fucking suck. Like. I'm sorry. Regular season games like fucking suck. The season
there should not be 82 of them. Yeah.
It should be 20 games shorter. It'll never be because money. That's
which
why
ironically Bill agrees with.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Like, why are you mad at him for missing regular season games? I think if the Clippers had made the playoffs, I think he would have played.
Yeah. And I also think that Kawhi Leonard, had he not gotten injured in the last playoff series that he was in, and look, the injuries are a real thing, but like if he had not gotten injured, they're going to the finals, and they could win the finals.
If Kawhi went on the trip, how many years does he have left?
He signed a 4-year extension. Okay. He's locked up for.
If he became available, he would create
2 years in a player option.
The same amount of hoopla Kevin Durant. He would.
Yeah.
It would be the NBA world would like shut down.
Yeah.
If Pascal Siakam became available, like, it would be like a big thing, but like, it's Kawhi Leonard. Like,
only because we're desperate for slop. That's why it would be a good thing.
Exactly.
But like, Kawhi would literally shut the entire internet down.
Okay. But sorry, I don't want to step on your toes here, Trill, but just to like skip ahead, like of who he put ahead of Kawhi Leonard. Zion Williamson, who I would say is more of an injury risk than fucking Kawhi Leonard.
He's played 100 games in 3 years.
Yeah. Brandon Ingram, who is a very fine player, but if the Pelicans would immediately make that trade, like immediately. Mm-hmm. And Drew Holiday, like I'm sorry, like I love Drew Holiday. I had him like very high. I think he's a great second player. This is like kind of that fit stuff, but there's just no fucking way.
No, Drew, and he talks about how he's like, I will gladly overrate Drew. Here's my thing with Drew.
Yeah.
Former Sixer, I love him.
I love Drew, yeah.
Drew's always been one of my favorite players because of what he means to me personally. But he has games in the playoffs where you go, how is this guy like a legit like star or all-star or sub-all-star or whatever? Some offensive games he has where you just go, what the fuck is happening? Like many times in multiple playoff series where you're like, yeah, Drew is not it. Like if they lose that series against the Nets, Drew is like a villain. Drew is like, oh my, he's Drew Bledsoe. Like, but because they won that and because he does a lot of like the defense things, he's like the nerdy guy that everyone loves. Like he put him at number 20 on this list. Like I love Drew, but like, dude, like, and also you said second guy. I would say Drew's the third guy. Why is Chris Middleton back at 37 when Chris Middleton was the second best player on the Bucks championship team and more essential than Drew Holiday?
I see, that's like an aesthetic thing for me. I think, I don't know, just the Drew being like a legitimate all NBA first team, like defender, like really does like, and like, I don't know, maybe I am overrating him because I watched him like basically single-handedly like win a playoff game against like that game.
That was amazing. Game 5, or I think it was game 5.
Was it game 5? I think it was game 4.
I thought it was the one that, okay, maybe they were about to go.
Whatever it was a huge pivotal swing game that like made things very uncomfy for the Celtics.
But also Chris Middleton in the Bucks run hit like 5 game-winning shots. My thing with Middleton is that as good as Drew is and as essential as he is for that team, you have to have a half-court creator with Giannis. And Middleton has done that so well in a way that Drew never could. And like, it's not like Middleton's like a sieve on defense. Like he's pretty good defensively. Yeah. Like
I might be just taking like the anti-Arnovitz stand because like Chris Middleton is like exactly that
the nerd
that everybody fucking like creams themselves over. Like he's so underrated, and it's like
he's not. He's perfectly rated now.
Back the other way a little bit, like where he's I mean, he's where he is. He's a solid all-star guy, I think, at this point. Like, I think you should, most years, if he's having like an average year, he should make the all-star game and like not be like an alter. He doesn't need somebody else to have a bad season to make an all-star game, is what I would say. So, like, he's pretty good. But I think it's just kind of like aesthetics-wise. Again, going back to your GM of a team X, I don't know. Yeah, man, I don't know. Drew.
They're close. Let's just say they're close. Let's just say they're close, and I would probably have Middleton slightly higher, but I also think that I can hear the argument for the other side. They should not be fucking 20 spots apart. Like that's where I feel it's ridiculous.
Wait, he has them 20 spots apart? Oh my god.
He has Drew Holiday at 20. He has Chris Middleton at 37. Like, that's where I was like
17 spots apart. Wow, yeah. No, I have Chris Middleton at 27. And Drew.
He should be. I mean, he's a very good player. Once again, we should value players who are legitimately really good right now, as opposed to like projecting forward, as opposed to like caring at that much about contracts. Like that has been my whole thing with this. So okay. Also, did we do this tier with Brandon Ingram, Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, and Bam Adebayo let me
real quick
save you time?
Sorry. Oh, sorry. No, I just really quick before we move on, I do want to hit on, we skipped over with the LeBron James tier and the same Chris Middleton tier. We skipped over Jamal Murray at 36, which I get that he was injured, but like, come on now. 1-800, come on now.
So
what is amazing the last time we saw him on an NBA court. Like, it was like playoff defense. I mean, I know he has Jokic on his team, but like, come on.
Well, the last time he played in the playoffs was the bubble, so I think that people discredit that a little bit. But then again, why did you include Tyler Hero on this list? Because if you're discrediting the bubble, then
I don't know. I just think people are like, by the same token, I think it's like the inverse of the Tyler Hero thing, where like, I don't know. I feel like people are going a little too crazy with like the Jamal Murray stuff. But anyway, sorry.
Well, isn't Jamal Murray also super young still?
Yeah,
he's 25.
No, he was like 19 in the Jaylen Brown draft. Like, so it was like 2016. So like, or no, he might have been 18. He was really young in that draft. He was like one of the youngest guys in that draft.
I still can't believe he put Jabari Smith over LeBron James. It's legitimately like you've never watched Jabari Smith play basketball. If that's your opinion, like that is an insane thing to say.
He had Jalen Green over Jamal Murray. Like, come on now.
Yeah, Jamal Murray is already really good. Like that's okay, and he's 25. Like he's not even old.
Well, I get that, and I get that it's contracts. I can hear people screaming at me, like, you know, that Jamal Murray makes 3 times as much money. It doesn't matter. Like, still, I'm accounting for.
What are the odds? What are the odds that he becomes a Jamal Murray level player? 50-50? Like, I don't know. Like,
I would say it's like 30-70. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Sure. I don't know.
All right.
Anyway, sorry.
So that tier, I'm not that mad at. I don't know. I'm not the biggest Bam guy.
He figures it out a little. He clearly thought about it more at the top. Like,
sure. But he also said when we get into the true franchise guy tier, we have Trae Young, Scotty Barnes, Cade Cunningham, Paul George, Jimmy Butler, Anthony Davis, Devin Booker, and
guess which one I didn't like there?
Scotty?
No, I didn't like Cade there at 15. That's really high. I don't know. I'm not a Cade guy.
Okay. I'm totally with you here.
Yeah.
Cade Cunningham, for what you think he can become, okay, you can sell me on it. Like, if you think he's this amazing prospect, for what he showed his rookie year, to have him above LeBron James, Trae Young, like,
Bam, dude.
Even like what did Cade show you that screams superstar about him?
Like, what is Cade going to be? Like, what? I remember when they did this. Like, what's Cade's ceiling as like a point guard in the league? Is he like going to be like better than Steph? No. Is he going to be like better than like
Luka?
Okay, no. Like no. Is he going to be better than Ja Morant? Like
probably not.
You can talk me into that, but like if already we're talking about maybe not being an All NBA.
Okay, so hold on.
Yeah.
Everyone, they both said, "Oh, it's not even a question for me. I'd rather have Trae Young. I'd rather have Cade over Trae Young." And I feel like I'm going insane when it comes to the Trae Young stuff because, like, as much as he's flawed, as much as you might not like, and once again, it goes back to the thing we talked about with LaMelo. You might not like the style, which has an underlying tone to it.
Mm-hmm.
Trae Young is one of the 5, at worst, the 7th best offensive player in the NBA. At worst, he's the 7th best offensive player in the NBA. If you consider scoring, playmaking, passing, shooting, everything that it takes to become a legit offensive hub.
I really think he might be like second.
I would put him like 3rd or 4th, probably.
Well, you can run.
I guess Jokic. Yeah.
I would put Steph, Jokic, and Luka ahead of him.
I guess Steph, yeah.
Because Steph isn't an on-ball guy, but Steph's offensive impact is Steph.
Yeah.
So I would go Steph, Luka, Jokic, Trae. Like those would be like my 4.
Yeah.
That if we're talking like, and then you get into like maybe LeBron, KD, Kawhi, like the guys that are in like a little bit lower. But like, there's no way you can say that Trae Young is number 17, and you would take Bam Adebayo and Cade Cunningham over him. By the way, they didn't put him over Bam, but they said that they think that Miami wouldn't do that trade. And then also on top of that, you put Ja Morant at number 5.
Okay.
So Ja Morant is not better than Trae Young. He's not.
So you hit the nail on the head. I like moved Ja all the way down to 8, and I think it's like insane that they had Ja where they had him, and because I still feel like that's like high for Ja Morant. I think
5?
Everyone's
but
going
it's because
insane.
he had a couple like really great playoff games, and Bill's like just goldfish brained, and like that's like all he's factoring in.
Did he even really? I felt like the team was just as good without him.
No, but he had a couple single, like
sure.
he had a couple like
30-point games or whatever,
crazy performances. But like, again, they were just as competitive without him.
You beat the Wolves and then got ethered by the Warriors, who I get were the eventual champions, but like some of these guys have had like real fucking like dog games. Like, and I get that you can say
beat the Warriors by 50 without Ja.
They crushed them the one game.
Yeah, when Ja wasn't playing, right?
Yeah, they did.
So like,
okay, like
I just like, and I get that some of that stuff, but I just like, I think people need to like chill the fuck out on the Ja stuff. Like, is Ja like better than Devin Booker? I don't think so.
Similar tier to me.
Yeah, like he's definitely not better than Joel Embiid or Jason Tatum.
I mean, like healthy.
No, that was the thing. They had him over Joel Embiid and Jason Tatum.
The healthy Damian Lillard is better than Ja Morant.
I mean, there's an argument.
He is like he's one of the best like shooters in the entire league. Ja Morant can't shoot.
Well, so this is the thing: maybe I just have the wrong impression of Ja, but like he's not like a great defender. He's like fine.
No, he's not. Like no, he's a bad defender.
No,
like, and maybe when he's locked in, he might be like somewhat passable, but like in his regular season defense is legit like I think he's a better defender than Trae Young, but I don't think that the gap is like that big.
So that's what I was getting at. Like if you ask me if I'd rather have Trae or Ja, like I'm taking Trae right now. I think I like ended up having him like a little bit ahead of Trae just because he's younger and Trae's got like that huge contract, but like they're on the same tier, like pretty clearly. Like I don't know if you swap those guys, like if you swap them on the other teams, is it
the Grizzlies could be in the finals and the Hawks are like near the lottery. I mean, to be fair, the Hawks were near the lottery this year and they have been every year except for that 1 year. So I understand everyone hates Trae and I understand all that shit, but like, I'm sorry. I watched this dude in the playoffs absolutely fucking crush. Maybe it's because I have the bias because he killed the Sixers, but at the same time, I've watched him do it in the playoffs. He went to the conference finals, and he was really good.
He played really good in the conference finals
before he got hurt. Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, and I think it's number one on his team. Like, the clear number one. Like, again, I think Bill and Ryan just like have a crazy thing with like the heliocentrism, where they just like it like offends their like sensibilities unless it's Luka. Yeah.
for some reason.
Yeah, because it's selfish and it's anti-management.
It's actually, I would think that they would like heliocentrism because it's very like it's capitalist. It's very like I'm the guy, like I'm the center of everything.
Russillo said it's fun to watch, but it's just not. But then also said it's not his cup of tea, which is very funny. But
I love Russillo saying something's not his cup of tea or like that's not my thing. It's just always coded in like subtle racism.
Yeah.
Or like when James Harden does it, I'm gonna throw up. When Luka Doncic does it,
I like it when Luka does it.
Now we're talking. You know, he gets real assists, unlike James Harden, one of the greatest passers and playmakers of all time.
Right.
Oh my God, didn't they say that?
Bill said that like a year ago.
Yeah, that was during his like really bad stretch of like problematic things.
The last 15 years. Okay, so we'll move on from that. There's so much to talk about in that tier, which is like Jimmy Butler at 13. Also, I'm just like, I mean, look, like I've been a Jimmy skeptic, but like, what else does he have to do?
Yeah, I mean, I had him 11th. He's really good.
Yeah, like what else does he have to do to be like not in the same tier as Cade Cunningham?
No, literally. If you like if there's a game, I know this is like kind of like this is like cliche Bill stuff, but if you have like a game, like you have one game, right? Like, and you need to win like an elimination game, like Butler's like one of the 5 guys I would probably pick.
Sure.
Yeah. No,
it would be like Steph.
Like
I know he's an asshole.
Yeah.
Steph,
he won't lose. Like
he's a villain.
You want that guy in your corner.
And Jimmy, like that's the best 4.
Yeah. Okay, so before we move on from this,
and Giannis,
we actually have a perfect little transition here for Sam because we have Kevin Durant at number 10. And we had Scotty Barnes in the last tier. And here's the thing. I at least get the argument for having Scotty this high because Scotty was legitimately really, really good as a rookie.
He's really good. Yeah.
I think some of that was context of situation. I think some of that is whatever. Also, my biggest thing on this was the fact that Scotty was like fucking 30, 40 spots higher than Franz Wagner, even though I think they're similar level players. And Franz is actually somehow younger than Scotty, which I didn't even know until today.
I'd say more of that was needing to move Franz up than like move Scotty down.
Yeah. I think you could argue that as like what he showed, like where he could go. Right. Sure,
he's like a rare. So like Bill was going crazy with some of these young guys. I think Scotty like is more or less that's like right because he
based on what he showed. Yeah, right, based on what he showed, his age, his potential, the importance of having a wing that's good offensively and defensively, like we talked about. Like I get it at least.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, so Kevin Durant, we're not trading him, but make us an offer. Number 10, he's in his own tier by himself. Sam, what did you want to say about Raptors fans and Kevin Durant?
Okay, I'm going like fucking cosmically insane, and I cannot like do this anymore.
You should do the
where like what are we like doing? So like Raptors fans have it in their head because the stance they had was like, okay, we don't need to trade Scotty because no one else has a good package. Which okay, fine. That is a totally normal, that is a regular guy like thought thing to have. Like, you know, I see the argument that Mikal Bridges and DeAndre Ayton isn't that good because, you know, it might not be, you know. I would say the difference is that the Suns picks are more likely to be good than a Raptors picks, especially if they're keeping Scotty Barnes
or the Heat or the Heat's picks too, by the way, who are always good.
Like, so like, which is the main thing you're getting back at that point, especially if you're not putting Scotty Barnes as
the Suns picks could be really good given that like their GM doesn't do anything.
Actively hates the draft. Yeah.
He's like, it's fucking worthless.
He's like, we live in the he's the Bobby Marks of GMs.
No, he's the Zach Lowe of we live in the desert and this isn't going to exist due to climate change in like 10 years. So what the fuck do I care about fucking my 2030 draft pick?
I was more saying that like because of the Bobby Marks pizza thing, but I think they're very
interested.
Also just insane because you picked your franchise player at 13. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you needed to tank for him.
No,
like or 14. It was 14, I think actually. Like
he was the last pick in the lottery.
Yeah.
That's why you got the hero comps. Yeah, Hero got the Booker comps.
They picked him off. I think they picked him off the 48 win Goran Dragic Bledsoe's.
I think they did. Yeah, I think that they were like actually pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, we were 48 wins and didn't make the playoffs, which is
on accident.
Yeah, but anyway, so the thing I'm seeing now is that like the Nets are bluffing by wanting to like bring Kevin Durant back. This is a bluff that they're doing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's fucking insane. That's what they should have been doing this entire fucking time.
Right.
The Nets season last year, I think people forget what a fucking doomed adventure that was from the start. Even without Kyrie, Joe Harris was out for the year, which is an enormous part of their team. Like, they're so top heavy and thin. Losing a starter is like you're literally getting a replacement level guy. It's not like you have like a ready-made guy off the bench. I get they lost Bruce Brown, whatever. You were literally running back your team. Last year, you literally never had your full team together. The only time you saw those guys play together was like literally last year, and like for like 16 games. Like, and now like obviously like Ben Simmons comes with his own stuff. You know, he is probably not as good of a player as James Harden. However, you happen to have probably the only player in the world that fits well with Ben Simmons and Kevin Durant.
You have two of them, actually. Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. Yeah.
Kevin Durant. So if they're ever going to work together, like I get, I'm very well versed that Ben is insane and just set the season up, yada, yada. He's also still was an all-NBA player, like it or not, and is like a perennial all first-team defense. Like if he's ever going to put it together, it's going to be on a team like this. They have Seth Curry. They have Joe Harris. They have real shooting. Why the fuck would you ever not run it back? Why would you take a dog shit package for Kevin fucking Durant, who's under contract for 4 seasons?
From everything
what's
I've
the worst that happened? He sits out? So
he's not gonna.
Cares?
Yeah, true.
He's not gonna.
He's not gonna. Podcast that like it.
He's not
makes
sitting
like, that. He won't go to a team that's better than his current Nets situation.
He won't. Like I genuinely believe that unless the Suns can figure out a way to get him for that Ayton Bridges package, I don't see a situation that he can go to that's going to be better than the current situation. And honestly, I think even that situation's kind of comparable, to be totally fair. And the Nets might be even a little bit deeper after the Suns get rid of whatever they get rid of. Like, also Kevin Durant isn't sitting out, but from everything that's been reported, like it's actually ownership being like, no, we want to get rid of these guys. Like, we don't want them anymore, which is insane to think.
They're they're petty.
I would just do like Trump with the general shit. Like hang up the phone when Josiah gets off and just be like, yeah, we're not going to do that.
Yeah, he's a fucking idiot. Please ignore him. No, call G and we'll get G shooters to out.
Exactly. All right, let's get Prokhorov back on the line here. Like, he's got to be no, I don't know. I just think it's like crazy because like, why would you not? Like, what? There's literally no downside to what the reason you are is. What? He's going to get hurt or you're going to lose value? I honestly don't even buy that he'll have less value in half a year, because the thing is, this happened so fucking fast. None of the heavy hitters could get their ducks in a row. Like, if you wait a year and everybody knows Kevin Durant is up for – everyone's fucking clearing the decks and getting their shit together to make you an awesome
even if
offer.
you wait until the trade deadline, like you could get a team will suck next year and inevitably be like, shit, maybe we should just trade for Durant.
Right. Yeah. Right. Some shit will happen. Or how about this? How about you run the team back, they all fucking play, and the team that was number 1 before Kevin Durant got hurt is number 1 again.
Yeah, exactly.
They're good right now. It was weird shit. Like, it was just a bunch of weird shit that happened. Like, and like, if you show those guys, I mean, I know it seems like those bridges are burned, but like, do they really want to fucking move? Do they really want to like give this shit up? Like,
it's so
if
stupid.
you have a good season, maybe you could tell Josiah, hey, can we just like extend Kyrie Irving for 4 years so they're like happy? And then like, it's fine. Like, that's the best case scenario for you. As it like, you brought in, what's his name? Fucking Royce O'Neal, the very strange trade, as Brian McClure said.
Very strange trade.
But like,
why would they trade for the man who was benched for Daniel House in the playoffs? Very strange. Very strange they would do that.
Very strange.
But honestly, I will say about this list, beyond that, I actually am fine with probably everything.
I think the
towards
entire
the top.
top 10 is like very. I think the top 9 is very reasonable.
What's your big quibble?
Embiid needs to be in the top tier.
Okay,
he should be 5, but he should be in the top tier.
So the argument against Embiid in the top tier is the injury thing, and I actually think that's fair. Like, I'm a Sixers fan. Like, I love Embiid death, but like, he's not going to play. He's not going to play more than 65 games in a season. He's probably going to get injured at some point in the playoffs or close to the playoffs. Like,
even by Bill's stupid like category standard, though, he checks all those boxes.
Sure,
like he is a beloved, literal franchise guy. Like, like even if you guys traded Embiid for like what Steph Curry, everyone Philly fans I think would still be.
No, I would not. I would be extremely excited to get Steph.
No, but a lot of fans would be furious because he's one of the most like beloved figures in all of sports.
That's definitely true. Yeah, you're right.
Like, I feel like
Steph might be literally the except. Steph and Giannis might be the two players where you could be like, we got Steph and Giannis. Like even Jokic has his own flaws,
especially
in
Giannis.
Playoffs, and everyone hates Jokic here. So I think that those two guys are more comparable. But
this is like just my thing though. Like for example, like I would say the next two, like I would say tier under Embiid, and then I would go to Jason Tatum, and
Tatum 6.
I love Jason Tatum. I love him to death. We don't have that relationship with Jason Tatum. There's like a little bit of a, like, you know, what's going on? There's a little bit of an undertone of everyone being a little bit like,
is he going to go to the Lakers?
You really like St. Louis, don't you?
Yeah.
You really like Kobe Bryant. That's very interesting. Like,
Paris of like Bostonians, the Kobe shit, like crazy Bostonian.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the fact that he idolizes a Laker and texts him like late at night when he's dead. He's been dead for 2 years.
He conjures the dead.
I will say, I wish my guy was not texting a dead rapist. If I had my way, I would prefer my franchise player was not sending like sad TikToks of like too late to apologize with like unanswered texts, like, and then like when you see that on TikTok, like when a girl at high school's like boyfriend dies, she'll like send him all these texts that are all blue, and the thing is like when they turn to green because the phone changes over is like the saddest thing, and then that's what's happening like with Kobe Bryant and Jason Tatum right now. He's like waiting for the text to change green.
I think this is late enough in the podcast that we won't get death threats for including this part because I don't think that enough Lakers fans.
I'd say like 80% of the people probably check out before the 2 hour mark. So you're pretty
exactly. But no, also okay. So just kind of rounding this whole thing up. Giannis, Luka, Jokic, Curry is a fine first year to me. Yeah. I would have Curry ahead of Jokic. Just because I think that we know that Steph Curry's been the best player on 4 championship teams, and like Jokic, as amazing as he is offensively, and I think that the way that they built their team around him this year was really smart, putting a bunch of defenders around him that can survive offensively, but like defensively, they will always be compromised when he's on the court in the playoffs in a way that the Warriors aren't with Steph.
Right.
I'm sorry.
And I don't.
I guess we did talk about Mobley, right? Because isn't Mobley 9?
Yeah. So Mobley's a little bit high at 9. I would have him a little bit lower than that, but I also
like
don't
15 or something like that.
Sure,
I would
14.
have him.
Yeah.
When I did my list, I had him at 4. I had him right in between Bam and Trey.
Because he is awesome, and you can. I feel like Mobley, like you can build a team around Mobley because he's like a dominant defensive center with like high offensive potential.
Yeah, sure. Like I think that he could be a really I think he'll mostly always be defensive first guy, but as they brought up, like offensively, like Embiid was amazing on defense when he was a rookie, and he showed so much more offensive potential than Evan Mobley has. And that's the thing is like. If you're projecting forward, like I think that Mobley probably fits closer to that Anthony Davis archetype of like number one defensive 100%. Guy, second offensive guy, which is still very good and important. And like, dude,
but Evan this Mobley's is the amazing. Thing again, and we talked about it. Like like, are you would you like a hypothetical like Mobley for like Davis swap? Like, yes, you would trade hypothetical Anthony Davis for actual Anthony Davis every single time.
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
Like, absolutely. Hypothetical.
So when I did mine, I had like an almost identical first tier but I just went like Giannis, Luka, Jokic, Curry, and Embiid. I just said Jokic just because like I don't know. I do think Curry is gonna start, like some stuff's gonna start happening like with the injuries and stuff.
There already was like scares with his ankles.
Yeah.
Here.
That's where I came down on that, and I had a little sub tier.
Bullshit for sure.
Yeah. And then I had a little sub tier at 6 and 7 of Tatum and Durant. Like, I think Tatum is, I've said this before, that Tatum is like the last player in the NBA I wouldn't trade Kevin Durant for. Like everybody else is like,
that's fair.
Like the 6,
right.
yeah.
Right. And then I had another giant big tier where I had like John Morant, Devin Booker, Anthony Edwards as
Anthony
much as
Edwards at 8 is like,
did he have him 8?
He had him 8.
Yeah, he had him 8.
Also, Russillo said he would trade everyone in that tier for Anthony Edwards except for Joel Embiid. So Jason, the Tatum versus Edwards thing is very much the conversation that we've been having, which is Jason Tatum is already Jason Tatum.
He would trade
literally a first team All NBA.
Edwards.
He's literally first team All NBA. Was the best player on a finals team this year.
No,
like if Edwards ever does that in his career, it's a massive success.
Yes.
Anthony Edwards isn't close to that good. Like, I love it.
Right now, if you're projecting forward, sure, I could see the theoretical upside, but also like I talked about it like this. I said, in order for Anthony Edwards to become a top 5 player, which I don't think Jason Tatum's top 5 right now, but I think he's just on the fringes at 24 years old.
He's like Pascal Siakam, but for like first team instead of third team.
Right.
Like, his natural resting place is probably second to third, and then if he has a good season, it's first.
3-4 years away from the start of his prime.
Yeah, he's not even. He's 24, and then also my last point on this is that like the whole thing with like Anthony Edwards is like, in order for him to become a top 5 player, he has to be an elite 3 level scorer, which we think he can become, a better playmaker and passer, a better defender, and also a better shooter. So like if all of those things happen, then yes, Anthony Edwards in theory could become a top 5 player, but Jason Tatum is literally already on the fringes of that at 24 years old, and Anthony Edwards is like 3 or 4 years younger and like has a long way to go to get there. Right. So
it's Jason Tatum is one of 2 guys under 25 in the top 6 in the NBA. It's him and Luka. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And it's like Luka's a tier above him, but the thing is that Luka is a generational exception to the rule type prospect.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. And then John Morant at 5. Didn't he have John Morant at 5?
He had John Morant at 5, which is legitimately insane to me. Like I think he should be in prison for that.
Right. I'm going to be honest. I really don't think I would trade Jason Tatum for like Jokic. I really don't. Like
I don't. Okay, well, let me hear this because I would. And I will say this much: my biggest thing with Tatum, and this is what I've always said, the reason why I value Jason Tatum because I think it's really easy to build a team around him.
Yeah,
it's very similar to the Kawhi Leonard thing.
Yeah,
where like I don't think that Kawhi was ever better than a few guys that were ahead of him, like LeBron and Steph and all the guys that are clearly like better than him. It's very easy to build a team around a guy who's a top scorer and a top defender and has very few flaws in his games until you get to like the NBA finals.
But it's because he's not heliocentric. It's because he's so valuable, and it's because he learned how to play off ball with the Spurs. Yeah, like he's done it 2 different ways.
Yeah. Right. He gets better like every year. Like honestly, Jason Tatum's like biggest weakness is like bitching about reffing. I'm barely kidding. Like he's
his biggest weakness is being friends with Bradley Beal.
Yeah, and Kobe Bryant.
I think Jason Tatum is like tremendously underrated. Like I think he's a teensy bit overrated as a scorer. I think people are kind of getting a little wise to that after the playoffs run. They kind of everyone got a front row look at the streakiness of Jason Tatum, which I think his shoulder was bothering him a little.
Underrated as a shooter and a defender, overrated as a scorer, primary creator.
Yeah, and like rebounder, defender, all that stuff. I think he's way underrated.
Yeah,
a creator, like passer, like he's he plays like Kobe, and he really shouldn't. Like, he should play like more like Kawhi, I think.
Exactly.
Right.
Literally exactly like Kawhi.
Right. But the thing, what I would say with Jokic is we've gone over how the Denver Nuggets are a scheme to build MVPs. They're a Ponzi scheme to create to create an MVPs where they just like put the shittiest team around Jokic and like, wow, look at this, like he did it. Like,
oh yeah, Michael Porter Jr. has a back injury. That's
exactly.
Paul Murray's injured.
Right.
He's not coming back, by the way.
He's not coming back for a year and a half.
Look, I was just saying how good Jamal Murray is, and I get that the Nuggets are good, but like also they did their damage in the bubble. We haven't seen like a lot of other stuff. I have a hard time believing that Jokic can survive in a Warriors Celtics NBA Finals style thing that we, he would need to like really
tough environment for him to play in.
Yeah.
The best argument,
you need to be like Giannis dominant, and I just don't know if he's got that in him in the playoffs. Like,
okay, so the best argument that I've heard, and I actually think it's a really good one, and he kind of has the Steph factor of doesn't need to have the ball to be super successful because of his scoring gravity off the ball. You can run actions with him. You can run him off pin downs. Everyone is constantly concerned with where Jokic is on the floor. There's definitely an advantage to that, right? When he does have the ball, he doesn't need the ball a ton to like process everything, can move it really quickly. He makes an offense flow in a way when he's on the ball, when he's off the ball, whatever it is.
Right.
The biggest argument for Jokic being like in this top tier, other than the fact that he's won 2 MVPs and he's legitimately like an amazing player, is that his defense is his weakest part, but his offense is so good and he's so good at lifting up everyone around him offensively that you can play him with offensively limited players like you can with Steph with like Gary Payton II, non-floor spacers. Like if you put Matisse Thybulle, even though I hate Matisse Thybulle, if you put Matisse Thybulle on the Nuggets, he would probably be a neutral offensive player, even though he's legitimately terrible on offense. And he would
because he would cut a lot, and
he would just get a bunch of open layups because he creates a ton of open layups, and that's the argument for Jokic. We'll see if that works at the highest levels of the playoffs. I'm very interested to see.
Yeah.
I do think that like their formula should just be like kind of what they're doing now, where like let's just have like we know we're gonna have like an elite offense with Jokic. Let's just put as many defenders that can shoot around him and go from there and see what we can do.
That's why KCP was such an amazing move for them. It was literally the perfect thing they could have done.
KCP and Bruce Brown were both
Bruce Brown.
No, they got like legitimately better. I mean, obviously with the guys coming back.
Yeah, I think that they got a lot better. Yeah.
No, they're going to be. Well, this is why I really don't think the Warriors are going to come out of the West again. To be honest.
Yeah, I know. That's what you were saying
before. Bear out there, man. Like,
the top 6 is just like brutal.
They let really important guys go. They're really counting on young guys, and like everybody's back. Like the Clippers are back, the Nuggets are back. Like,
and Moody's the only one I trust of the young guys.
Yeah,
Moody's the only one that I think can play next year and be effective. Like I think that Wiseman and Kuminga are far.
About the Warriors, the one thing about the Warriors is that they have because they have young guys, middle guys, and older. They have a lot of tradable contracts. They could find ways to get that.
I don't really think they do though.
Really? What is
the only tradable contract they have is like Wiseman
and Wiggins.
Well, Wiggins is on a max.
Yeah, I forgot because Bull is like making.
He makes like $30 million a year. Like, I'm not saying you can't trade Wiggins, but like if you trade Wiggins, you're probably making your team worse unless you get a star.
But I guess that's what I'm thinking. Is like,
I'm thinking about like the Celtics have a bunch of middle tier contracts. The Pacers always had a bunch of middle tier contracts. Like they had the Rob Williams, the Marcus Smart, the Daniel Tice. Like,
What's Clay making?
Clay makes them over the max. He makes $37 million.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah, he makes way too much. That's the thing is that the Warriors' outlet to get better as a team is the younger players getting better.
I can't believe they let Gary Payton and Otto Porter go. Like that's just brutal for them, man. Like
those would have been tradable contracts. Those
I get that was going to be like $50 million or something.
It was a lot.
But you spent like all this championship just saying, like, taking credit, saying, like, we're not scared of paying money. Like, and then you immediately, like, run from the grind, which
You're like,
is defensible.
yes.
Is defensible, like, considering you do have young guys, like, kind of in the waiting a little bit. But, like, don't toot your horn about it. Just fucking let them walk. Like, right.
All right.
But anyway.
I think it's about time to wrap this up. It's been over 2 hours. Matt has been.
I think it might have gone longer than theirs.
Matt, yeah, exactly. And Matt was kidnapped, freed. We had the full circle moment here.
I was rotting in nephew Kyle's ex-girlfriend's basement for 40 minutes, and I came back for a full hour podcast.
Well, you know why you were able to have the energy for that is you actually, like, absorbed the Four Loko through osmosis. That is, like, into the air. Like it's like an
I've
aerosol.
I've already fully digested the large Shake Shack fry that he
The cheesy fries are within you right now.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining me. I'll talk to you later.